Chapter 81, An Unexpected Nighttime Encounter. As night fell, the faint moonlight shone through the clouds onto the walls of the castle. The students returned to their dormitories one by one, and the common room gradually emptied. 3 sneaky figures descended the stairs lightly, one of them holding a black cloak. Quack! 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 Just as the trio was about to move on, a toad appeared in front of them. Life! Harry was stunned for a moment, puzzled as to why Neville's pet was there. Never mind it. We have to act quickly, said Ron. What are you doing? Neville stood up from behind the sofa, looking at the 3 of them with a stern expression. He had been unable to sleep and decided to sit for a while, bringing life out for some air. He never expected to intercept the 3 Gryffindors attempting to leave the dormitory. His sense of responsibility kicked in, and he knew he couldn't turn a blind eye. You're going to sneak out again, aren't you? Neville, listen. We. Harry stammered, clearly unprepared to explain due to his guilty conscience. No, you are not allowed to go. Neville, relying on his strong physique, blocked the door. You've already lost us 150 points. If you're caught out at night, Gryffindor will be in even more trouble. Neville, we don't have time to explain to you now, so get out of the way, Ron said impatiently. There are 3 of us. You can't stop us. I'm ready. Neville was determined, clenching his fists and adopting a fighting stance. However, his pajamas and flustered expression made his actions look somewhat comical. Neville, I'm sorry, Hermione said, pulling out her wand. Petrificus totalis. Neville's face turned blue as his body stiffened, his arms clinging to his sides, and he fell to the floor with a thud. You're a little scary sometimes, you know? Ron said, swallowing hard. Hermione looked at the motionless Neville, her face full of apology. I'm sorry, but it's really for your own good. Let's go, said Harry. The 3 bypassed Neville, lying on the ground, and put on the invisibility cloak as they left the portrait doorway. They had to ensure the cloak covered all 3 of them, which slowed their pace considerably. Meanwhile, in the Slytherin common room, Aaron was getting ready. He had a music box, a high-quality Christmas present from a relative, which he was sure would calm the 3-headed dog. He had 2 pre-written letters, almost identical, ready to be delivered once Voldemort made his move. Aaron pinned a very inconspicuous brooch into his clothes, a life-saving magical tool capable of withstanding all blows, including the killing curse. Finally, he examined 2 wands as carefully as a quill before an exam. Sure enough, I'm still too nervous. If I had known earlier, I would have saved half of today's tranquilizer for myself, Aaron chuckled. He patted Abe's head and stuffed the 2 letters into his pocket. The green envelope is for Professor Snape, and the red envelope is for Professor McGonagall. Your task is very important and may even affect your master's life, understand? Abe nodded solemnly, his small face unusually serious. Seeing this, Aaron felt a bit relieved. He then took out the invisibility potion, drinking a quarter himself, and feeding another quarter to Shenglong. This would keep them invisible for nearly an hour, enough time to reach the 4th floor corridor and wait. Even if the time limit expired, the remaining half of the potion would provide enough buffer time. After becoming invisible, Aaron took out another bottle of Felix Felicis, took a sip himself, and reluctantly fed some to Abe. It should be safe now. Let's set off. 10 minutes later, Aaron arrived at the 4th floor corridor ahead of Harry and the others. He and the dragon adjusted their breathing in unison and cautiously approached the wooden door. They couldn't afford to be careless. If Voldemort was inside playing music to Fluffy, they risked being discovered. Voldemort wouldn't hesitate to cast the killing curse on them, invisible. Or not. The lock on the wooden door was still intact, just as it had been at noon. Aaron was cautious. If the lock had been broken, it would mean Voldemort had already entered the trapdoor. But with the lock still in place, Aaron couldn't be sure if Voldemort had come or not. He pressed his ear to the door, trying to listen for any sounds of music to make a preliminary judgment. The room's soundproofing was excellent, and Aaron could only hear Fluffy's snoring after a long effort. As he hesitated about whether to go in and check, a faint red light flashed on the door lock, and the door opened. Aaron's heart skipped a beat. He quickly covered his mouth with one hand and Abe's with the other, fearing they might make a sound. Once the door closed, he breathed a sigh of relief. It's time to wait. Aaron said, putting Abe down and pointing to the corridor outside. The meaning was clear. I'll guard here. You go report. Ab hesitated, then extended his dragon claws towards the wooden door before quickly shaking his head. What's wrong? Aaron frowned and pressed his ear to the door again. After a moment, several black lines appeared on his forehead. In addition to Fluffy's snoring, he heard the voices of several familiar people. Without thinking further, he opened the door and walked in. As expected, he saw 3 Gryffindors, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, all present. How did the door open? Ron asked, puzzled. Maybe it wasn't closed properly, Harry suggested, glancing at the harp that was playing automatically. Snape has already been here and cast a spell on the harp. It might not have been Professor Snape, Aaron interjected. He should be sleeping in the dormitory at this time. Who? Who's there? The 3 panicked, drawing their wands and aiming in the direction of the voice. Don't be so nervous, Aaron said, stepping out of his invisible state. If Fluffy wakes up, we'll be in trouble. Aaron, why are you here? Harry asked excitedly. Do you have an invisibility cloak, too? I don't have that kind of prop, but I do have a bottle of invisibility potion, Aaron explained, spreading his hands. He glanced at the harp still playing, and his pupils shrank slightly. Since Harry and the others hadn't set the harp, it could only have been Voldemort. Realizing this, he quickly signaled to Abe, who was still squatting at the door. Abe received the signal and rushed out of the corridor. What are you doing here? Aaron asked. We're here to get the Philosopher's Stone before the Dark Lord, Hermione explained, looking a bit frustrated. But it seems we're too late. Aaron couldn't help but pat his forehead. I thought I made it clear that I could stop the Dark Lord. Don't you believe me? It's not that we don't trust you, Harry said seriously. We just can't put the burden on you alone. Heh! Don't get me wrong. To be clear, I'm stopping him for my own reasons, not for you. Never mind. Since you're here, it means we're on the same side. Although we're a bit late, there are still many obstacles under the trapdoor. The Dark Lord certainly hasn't gotten far. We haven't succeeded yet, but we still have a chance, said Harry, walking up to Fluffy. We need to move its claws. The trapdoor is underneath. Move what? Aaron said impatiently. All you have to do now is go back to sleep. Staying here will only get in the way, and it's very dangerous. What about you? Hermione asked meaningfully. Are you planning to stay? That's not important. What's important is that I have the confidence to get out of this alive, Harry replied, shaking his head. Even if you think it's just hype, we won't let you face this alone. Besides, if you fail, we'll be here to help and take care of you. Aaron sighed internally. Why didn't I realize this kid was so stubborn before? Ron, come and help me, Harry called out. All right, Ron responded. With great effort, the pair managed to move one of Fluffy's huge paws, revealing the trapdoor below. After opening it, they saw an extremely dark passage. Tsk. It's scary to look at, Aaron remarked, driven by curiosity as he took a closer look. I'll go in first, and you guys can come down after I give the signal, Harry volunteered. If anything happens, you just need to escape on your own. The group exchanged worried glances, but they knew there was no turning back now. Chapter 82. Passive Deviation from the Original Plan. You don't need to say this. I can leave now, Aaron said without hesitation, completely ignoring Harry's seemingly final request. He had no intention of joining the plans of the 3 Gryffindors. The harp had already proved that Voldemort was under the trapdoor, and it would be foolish to go down now. Whatever the reason, Harry wanted to prevent Voldemort from being resurrected, which at least sounded noble. But the key question was how to stop it. Was it out of passion or sheer determination? Without enough strength, relying on these 2 things was no different from a suicide mission. Waiting here for the professors to arrive and following them was the most sensible battle plan. Hearing this, the 3 of them looked at each other, then turned to Aaron with strange expressions. Don't look at me like that. My plan is completely different from yours, Aaron said with a sigh. I don't suggest you go down. This is advice. Of course, if you have to go down, I won't stop you. Good luck and goodbye. Just as Aaron was about to leave the dangerous hole, he felt a stench blowing towards his face and looked up instinctively. The 3-headed dog, Fluffy, had opened its eyes and was staring hostilely at the 4 wizards standing in front of the trapdoor. Its mouth secreted extremely viscous saliva, which dripped onto Ron's shirt. "Oh," Aaron swallowed, shrugged with a wry smile, and jumped into the trapdoor without saying a word. "Why did he go down all of a sudden?" Ron asked, puzzled. "Wait," Harry suddenly felt uneasy. "Don't you think it's too quiet?" "It's the harp," Hermione glanced back. "It's not playing." "Yeah." Ron noticed the disgusting saliva on his shoulder and looked up to see 6 huge eyes staring at them. The music stopped. "That means the 3-headed dog." "Roar!" Fluffy roared, shaking its 3 heads from side to side. One paw was lifted, and it was about to strike. "Jump off!" Harry said hastily, flipping over and jumping into the trapdoor. Hermione and Ron followed closely behind, not daring to delay. In the next second, a huge and chaotic roar sounded. 2 rows of sharp teeth blocked the trapdoor, and saliva dripped from between the teeth as the dog barked. "Fortunately, the trapdoor is relatively small, otherwise we would be in danger," Aaron said, his wand emitting a pale white light, illuminating the place where they landed. "It's also lucky that there are these mollusk plants here. Otherwise, I would have fallen to my death," Ron said, looking at the exit blocked by the dog's mouth. They had fallen at least 10 meters. Aaron looked at the irregular ground made of plants under his feet and saw a few steps vaguely through the gaps. "There is another floor below, which should be designed by Professor Sprout. It's a checkpoint, the Devil's Snare." "What Devil's Snare?" Harry asked, just as thick black vines wrapped around his legs. Before he could react, more vines wrapped around his limbs and neck, strangling him so that he couldn't breathe. Ron and Hermione were in a similar situation, although they were not as tightly wrapped. "What should we do?" Ron shouted anxiously. "Don't move, take it easy," Hermione reminded loudly. "I've read in books that the harder you struggle, the tighter the vines will be." "Who can relax at this time?" Ron said tearfully. "We're fine, but Harry is going to be strangled to death." "Trust me," Hermione said, noticing her body sinking with a little confidence on her face. "As long as you don't move, you'll be fine." Harry calmed down, and after a while, he felt his neck relax a little, allowing him to breathe heavily. His body also slowly sank in the process of relaxing, and it was only a matter of time before he fell to the 2nd floor. Ron, however, couldn't calm down at all. The more he struggled, the more the vines tightened around him. The more nervous he became, the more vines entangled him. During his violent struggle, he fell into an endless loop. His mouth and nose were sealed by the vines, and only his limbs continued to twitch. "Troublesome." Aaron patted his forehead and then waved his wand. "The flames are raging." A mass of red flames appeared from the tip of his wand. The Devil's Snare, which preferred a cold environment, sensed the increase in temperature and quickly released its grip on the group, curling up in a dark corner of the wall. Thump! Several dull impact sounds echoed. Aaron landed heroically, supporting himself with one hand on the ground. Of the remaining 3, only Hermione managed to stay composed, while Harry and Ron fell to the ground, their bodies aching. Fortunately, the distance between this layer and the Devil's Snare above their heads was only 2 meters. Otherwise, the fall would have been more than just painful. Actually, this kind of plant is more afraid of fire. It's more effective to set it ablaze than to try to relax, Aaron explained. "Why didn't you use this spell earlier?" Ron complained, still catching his breath. Only he knew how much he had suffered. The difficulty in breathing was terrifying, and it had become increasingly hard to breathe. He had even imagined seeing his grandfather waving to him, a thought that sent cold sweat down his back. "I didn't know you would be so nervous. We all went with the flow and fell slowly, but you were about to suffocate. Besides, the Devil's Snare is school property, and I didn't want to damage it without a good reason," Aaron replied. Ron opened his mouth to retort, but found himself at a loss for words. "Ahem!" Aaron walked to the stairs, blocking the only passage, and then looked at the 3 of them. "We are safe for the time being. I suggest you follow my plan and wait a little longer." "I must go," Harry interrupted, knowing what Aaron was about to say. "You idiot! We've already fallen behind. Do you think chasing after them now will help?" Aaron snapped. "You know who hasn't succeeded yet," Harry said, pushing his hair back to reveal the lightning-shaped scar on his forehead. "It hurts, but I'm sure he hasn't succeeded. If we don't stop him, He will be resurrected when he gets the Philosopher's Stone. I understand how you feel, but even if he gets the Philosopher's Stone, it will take time to transform it into life force, Aaron reasoned. Then I can wait for him to kill me, Harry said bitterly. Aaron hesitated for a moment before silently stepping aside to let Harry pass. He wasn't Harry Potter. He had no major feud with Voldemort and couldn't understand what it was like to have such a threat hanging over him. Thank you, Harry said, quickly ascending the steps, with Ron following closely behind. Don't worry about it, Hermione explained patiently. It's a matter of life and death, and it's only natural for him to be anxious. Ugh, he's in a hurry, and my plan needs time. I'm 99% sure I can stop Voldemort, but he's afraid of the 1% chance that I might fail, Aaron sighed. Then, do you want to go together? Hermione asked. What do you think? I've come this far. I can't just stay here forever. If something happens to all of you, my conscience would never forgive me, Aaron replied. Hermione smiled happily and then stepped into the passage. As the four continued to move forward, the sound of flapping wings grew clearer and clearer. They reached the end of the corridor and opened a door, revealing a very spacious room. Dozens of pillars supported a ceiling tens of meters high, and countless keys with transparent wings flew around the room. If I'm not mistaken, that door should be the exit, Ron said, pointing to the opposite door. Obviously, Aaron said disdainfully. The problem is how we get there. That door can't be opened with a simple unlocking spell. It requires a matching key. But there are at least 1,000 keys here, so trying them one by one isn't practical. Even if we could, the process would probably be quite dangerous. You mean, the keys might attack us? Hermione asked. Not sure, but it's a possibility, Aaron replied. The possibility cannot be ruled out. It was stabbed by hundreds of keys, and it probably leaked after it was cured, Aaron said as he walked to the door and examined it carefully for a while. We have to find the oldest one among the thousands of keys. It should be easy to recognize, but it's not easy to grasp. After all, none of us have the magic spell to fly. At this moment, Harry noticed a magic broom floating in midair. I guess I need to use this. Huh? Isn't this a little too simple? The golden snitch is much faster than these keys, Aaron remarked. As soon as he finished speaking, Harry, Ron, and Hermione all looked at him eagerly. Hey, you don't want me to do it, do you? Aaron asked, a bit taken aback. Of course it's you, said Ron. You're the best seeker at Hogwarts. Who else would it be? But I haven't touched a broomstick for a long time, Aaron protested. No, Aaron, you can definitely do it, Harry encouraged. You are much better than me. All right, now that you've said that, I'll help you out as best as I can, but only this time, not the next, Aaron said with some hesitation. Go to that door first, and wait, ready to open it at any time. None of the three raised any objections, and quickly walked to the door, leaving only a silver doorknob behind. Call. Aaron took a deep breath, took out his wand, and pointed the tip at himself. Armor protection. Pale white light flashed, covering his body with an invisible, transparent barrier, and his sense of security surged instantly. Chapter 83. Don't find me after such exciting things. The corner of Harry's mouth twitched slightly when he saw the scene. Although this wasn't an official competition, it always felt a bit awkward to cast a spell on yourself before getting on a broomstick. Hermione, have we learned this spell? Harry asked. It seems not at all. I listened carefully to every class, but none of the professors taught this spell, Hermione replied. This is a defensive enchantment of medium difficulty. If nothing else, you should have the opportunity to learn this spell in a few years, Aaron explained. But how did you learn it? Ron asked, puzzled. Self-taught, Aaron said confidently. I went to the restricted section casually. Isn't it normal to learn 1 or 2 spells by myself? Can you teach us? Hermione looked at Aaron, hoping for a positive response. Nonsense, of course. No, I don't have that kind of spare time, and it's still very difficult to learn this spell with your current mana reserves. If you really want to learn, go to Professor Flitwick next semester. Aaron replied. After finishing speaking, Aaron grabbed the broomstick and mounted it. As soon as he got on the broom, thousands of keys started to stir violently, flying randomly around the room without any pattern and at a much faster speed. A large part of them revolved around Aaron on his broomstick, and the sound of wings beating was so dense that it was annoying. The few people guarding the door felt anxious. It was not easy to find a key in this dense group of keys, but now it was several times more difficult. Aaron ignored the harassment of the keys and kept looking for a different key in midair. "There," Harry called, pointing to a key in the upper left corner. "It must be it, with the missing wings and much older than the other keys." Aaron's eyes lit up, and he immediately controlled the broom to chase after it. All of a sudden, all the keys followed, forming a thick torrent in the room, chasing Aaron closely. After flying around the pillars in the room for more than half a minute, Aaron was getting closer and closer to the old key. With a creak, he grabbed the correct key, but before he could relax, he felt his heart skip a beat. The sound of the flapping wings became sharper and harsher, and the remaining keys suddenly accelerated, their aggressive tips all aimed at Aaron, piercing like arrows. "Fuck!" Aaron exclaimed. He didn't know if the defensive spell cast by a senior magician like him could block so many arrows. But he dared not gamble. If he couldn't stop it, he would probably have to lie in a hospital bed for the whole summer vacation. Without time to think, he controlled the broom to dodge while tearing off the two transparent wings of the old key in his hand and threw it towards the three people below. It couldn't be blamed for his cruelty. If it had wings, this key could still fly. He didn't want to find it again in the group of keys whose danger level had increased several levels. "Catch it! Better go faster," Aaron urged. Harry caught the key, turned quickly, inserted it into the lock, and gave it a hard twist. Click! The door opened, and the three of them got in immediately. Seeing this, Aaron controlled the broom to hover in the sky for a while, then descended rapidly. As soon as he passed through the exit, the three of them closed the door decisively. Boom, boom. Countless knocking sounds came through the wooden door. It was the sound of keys being nailed to the door, which was particularly dense. Aaron couldn't help swallowing. He didn't think his flesh and blood body could be harder than wood. Although there was a magic spell to protect the body, after so many hits, the consequences were really hard to say. Exciting. But don't look for me for such exciting things in the future, Aaron said, catching his breath. The three nodded in unison and then walked to the next room. After opening the door, the inside was pitch black, except for an aisle that was densely packed with stone statues. "I don't like it here. Not at all," Hermione said nervously. "It's almost like a cemetery," Harry added. "Now that you're afraid, why did you come here in the first place? But I can assure you, this is definitely not a cemetery. Unless Hogwarts has decided to abandon all sense, ghosts and graves are entirely different things in the wizarding world," Aaron said, rolling his eyes. He then took out his wand and muttered, "Lumos." A bright light shone from the tip of his wand, illuminating the darkness in the room. Huge black and white chess pieces appeared before them, arranged on a massive chessboard. On one side were the white pieces, and on the other, the black pieces. "This is wizard's chess," Ron said, stepping forward. As he did, 4 rows of flames ignited on the 4 sides of the chessboard, lighting up the room brightly. "It's clear. We can only pass by winning this game of chess, but we're at a disadvantage. We're missing 2 pieces." Aaron pointed to the 2 empty spots at the corners of the chessboard, a bishop and a rook. "Can't we just walk through?" Harry asked. "There's no key to that door," Aaron replied. "You're really smart," Aaron said with a smile, walking slowly towards the white pieces. Just as he was about to pass through, a row of white pawns drew their long swords, blocking the path. Aaron quickly retreated, and the pawns sheathed their swords again. "See, do you think the professors have nothing better to do than make this level more elaborate?" Harry sneered. "But how do we play this game of chess?" "It's simple. White has 1 more knight than black. As long as someone mounts the horse and acts as a knight, the game can start," Aaron explained. "I'm not interested in this kind of chess, so don't count on me." Hearing this, both Harry and Hermione looked at Ron, the only one among them who played chess well. "Leave it to me," Ron said, swallowing hard as he looked at the empty horse's back on the black side. "What about the missing bishop and rook?" Harry asked. "Do we need to be pawns too?" "We shouldn't need to. As long as the chess is played decently, we can win without those 2 pieces. Our opponents don't think strategically. They just aim to capture pieces. Their level shouldn't be much higher, Aaron reassured them. Harry and Hermione looked at Ron again, their eyes full of hope. Hey, don't look at me like that. White's level isn't much higher, and my level isn't necessarily very strong. I can fight without 1 or 2 pawns, but with 2 generals missing, I can't do it, Ron admitted. That means we still have to fill in the positions of the 2 black pieces, Harry said solemnly. Aaron, look. Come on, the spirit is with you, Aaron said, stepping off the chessboard. Don't you? Harry's mouth twitched, feeling speechless. Hermione and Ron were also dumbfounded. Aaron had withdrawn before making any arrangements, leaving them unsure if he was joking. Don't worry about it. That's great, Aaron said. Not this, Harry began. Stop, Harry. I know what you want to say, but I don't want to be a pawn, especially not on this chessboard, Aaron interrupted. What do you mean? Although I'm not as good as you in academics, I'm quite skilled at wizard's chess. As long as I complete the pieces, we have a high chance of winning, Ron said. Is that so? Then I ask you, Master, to protect them well, Aaron said meaningfully. This is a serious wizard's game. You don't think those white pawn's swords are made of foam, do you? If you win, it's fine, but if you lose, your life could be in danger. I'm not afraid. Otherwise, I wouldn't have come to the trapdoor alone at night, nor would I have helped you in the previous level. But I can't put my fate in the hands of others. Not to mention, I don't trust this person enough to do so. Life and death intersect. Hearing this, Ron turned his head and glanced at Baiki, falling silent. Let's go, Ron. This level is up to you, Harry said, patting him on the shoulder. Just in case. No chance. I have no choice. We've come to his far. We can't give up now. Harry continued, walking to the bishop's place. I believe in you too, Hermione said solemnly. But you must be serious and can't make any mistakes. She then walked to the other corner of the chessboard, filling the position of the castle. Ron felt a lump in his throat. Aaron, being a Slytherin, wasn't part of their original plan for tonight, yet he had done his best to help them reach this point. Harry and Hermione's trust, despite the danger, deeply moved him. Taking a deep breath, Ron climbed onto the Black Knight's horse. He knew he had to give it his all. Even if he lost, he couldn't risk the lives of Harry and Hermione, who were now special black chess pieces. Wait, Aaron called out just as Ron was about to start the game. What happened? Ron asked. Armor protection, armor protection, armor protection, Aaron chanted, casting 3 spells in quick succession on the trio. He then spread his hands. This is all I can do. With this spell, even if those blades come down, they can resist some damage. Your lives won't be in immediate danger. Ron nodded, feeling a bit more reassured. The weight of the task ahead still loomed large, but with his friend's trust and Aaron's protection, he felt a renewed sense of determination. Chapter 84, The Power Beyond the Chessboard. Thank you. It was a great help, Ron said with a sigh of relief. Harry and Hermione also felt a bit more at ease. In this potentially life-threatening chess game, what they needed most was a sense of security, and this spell provided just that. Okay, I'm going to start, Ron announced. Wait, Aaron hesitated for a moment and took out a vial of Felix Felicis. Even if I'm unlucky this time, if each of you takes a sip, it should help. What's this? Harry asked, curious. I think I've seen it somewhere, Hermione said thoughtfully. Didn't you drink it when you were dueling with the man in black in the Forbidden Forest? Felix Felicis, Aaron explained. Just 1 sip can improve a person's luck. The Iron Armor Curse can protect you from being killed in 1 hit, and this potion may cause you to suffer only a minor injury at most. Originally, I didn't intend to take it out, but since we came together, I can't just watch you get hurt. Aaron handed the bottle to Hermione. I only have 1 request. Never, never, never. Don't worry, Ron interrupted confidently, patting his chest. With the Iron Armor Curse and the Felix Felicis, we'll be fine. Nonsense, that's not what I was going to say. You mustn't touch your lips to the bottle. I took a sip before I acted tonight. I'm a bit of a germaphobe. Ron, the 3 looked at each other and then nodded. Hermione took a small sip of the Felix Felicis and handed the bottle to Harry. After Harry did the same, it was Ron's turn. He drank the last of the potion in 1 gulp and threw the bottle into the corner, where it shattered with a loud crash. Let's go to war, Ron declared. The rule of wizard's chess is that white moves first. After the signal to start war, a white pawn automatically moved forward 2 squares. Ron pointed to a black pawn on the edge and tentatively said, "Black moves to square d5. As soon as it stopped, the white pawn in front pulled out its knife and chopped it down without hesitation. The black pawn was instantly shattered, and the stones scattered across the chessboard, shocking the 3 friends. Tsk. I've already said that this is a real wizard's game. What's the point of probing it? Aaron shook his head in exasperation. Now the opponent has taken a pawn. The chess game, which was already not in our favor, has become even worse. Ron, Harry couldn't help but remind him, no matter how lucky we are in this game, we could all die. Don't worry, I'm sure I can win the game without losing a single pawn, Ron said confidently. However, as the game progressed, his confidence waned. Although Ron managed to turn the advantage to the black side using his wits, the white pieces were too ruthless. He had to find a way to ensure that Harry and Hermione were not harmed, and every move was a huge pressure. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of stone statues shattering echoed through the room. The number of black and white chess pieces on the board continued to decrease, leaving less than half. The broken stones almost paved half of the room. At this moment, the only chess pieces on the board that could affect the outcome were the white king, the white queen, and the 3 living black pieces, Harry, Hermione, and Ron. 3 against 2, the situation was quite clear. As long as the white queen, whose main purpose was to capture pieces, was held back, any black piece could checkmate the white king. But this was wizard's chess, and they needed to decide who would face the stone statue of the white queen. Wait a minute, Harry said suddenly. It seems you understand, Harry, Ron said, pursing his lips. I have to be taken. No, Harry and Hermione exclaimed in unison. This is a game of chess, and there is always sacrifice. Do you still want to prevent the Dark Lord from getting the Philosopher's Stone? Ron asked. No, there's always another way, Hermione insisted. But if we wait any longer, the Philosopher's Stone will be lost, Ron countered. Stone will be taken away, Ron said, his face pale as he forced a smile. I'll be fine. Don't forget, I still have a protective spell on me, and I also drank Felix Felicis. But look at these broken chess pieces. Is any one of them intact? You can't risk your life like this, Hermione said anxiously. By the way, Aaron must have a way. She turned her head and looked around anxiously, finally spotting Aaron dozing in the corner. The corner of her mouth twitched in frustration. Aaron, wake up! Don't sleep! Huh? Finished? Aaron opened his eyes and stood up from the hard floor. Hey, this scene is really tragic. Although I'm not interested in this game, it's obvious that Black has won. But we scored a point, and one person distracted the White Queen, Harry said, his face grim. That means, it means that one of you will suffer the same fate as these broken chess pieces, Aaron said, looking at the scattered gravel with a hint of emotion. Fortunately, I'm not on the chessboard. It would be really sad to be a chess piece. Is now the time to discuss this? Ron said tearfully. Why are your legs shaking so much? No, not just the legs, your whole body is shaking. He intends to sacrifice himself and let us checkmate the White King, Harry said in a deep voice. Aaron froze for a moment, then looked at the trembling Ron and gave him a thumbs up. Brilliant, wise decision. As expected of a Gryffindor, your courage really impresses me. I believe the Weasley family will be proud of you in the future. Go for it. The 3 of them stared at Aaron in disbelief. Is this what people say? Is this gloating tone for real? Hermione asked incredulously. Wait, you mean to really make Ron sacrifice? Hermione asked, her voice filled with disbelief. We can only watch and do nothing? What else? Would it be you and Harry instead? Aaron asked rhetorically. Ron is on a stone statue, and with the iron armor curse and Felix Felicis, he may not be seriously injured. But what about you? You have nothing. If you lure the White Queen away, you can only rely on your flesh and blood to block its long sword, and you will die. In short, Ron is the best choice. Is there nothing else you can do? Hermione asked desperately. Aaron raised his eyebrows and gave her a playful look. There is a way, but even if I use it, Ron still has to act as a pawn, but compared to being attacked by the White Queen, the danger is a little less. That's it, Ron said immediately, then looked at Harry. Go to the next level immediately after winning. Don't delay here. Ron controlled the statue of the horse and slowly moved towards the White King. Checkmate. As the words fell, the White Queen turned around slowly, her faceless visage focusing on Ron, and then moved towards him. Both Harry and Hermione watched anxiously, their hearts pounding and their breathing becoming more rapid. Ron, trembling on the horseback, still held tightly to the reins of the statue. As the White Queen approached, she raised her long sword and stabbed straight at the horse's belly. Ron exclaimed in panic. "Ron!" Harry yelled angrily. At that moment, a white light flew out from the side, knocking Ron onto the wall. Harry's yelling stopped abruptly, and he stared in shock before looking in the direction of the white light. Aaron put away his wand, pretending not to care. "Am I handsome?" he asked. Harry and Hermione, still in shock, could only nod in unison. "Is this how you do it?" Hermione asked. "That's right. It's not necessarily only the player who can control the chess pieces. Forces outside the chessboard can affect the situation at any time. This is a famous saying from one of my ancestors, and it's quite reasonable." Aaron explained. "The White Queen's purpose is only to destroy the pieces. In other words, her goal was only the statue of the horse on which Ron was riding. As long as you leave in time, there's no danger in getting off the board." "Is Ron going to be okay?" Harry asked, his voice filled with concern. "Are you okay?" Harry asked, his voice filled with concern as he looked at the figure crouching under the wall. "Probably not," came the hesitant reply. "Should," they both said in unison, clearly dissatisfied with the uncertainty. "Of course, he should be fine," Aaron interjected confidently. "I made sure he was outside the chessboard, and I strengthened the spell a bit. I also gave him armor and a bit of luck, so it shouldn't be a big deal." Harry smiled bitterly. "You always take things too far." "What? Are you not convinced?" Aaron asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. "At least he ended up much better than that chess piece, didn't he?" Harry glanced at the shattered pieces on the chessboard, remnants of the White Queen's attack. He couldn't argue with that. "Maybe you're right, but you should have warned us beforehand." "You didn't even ask," Aaron retorted. "Besides, I had to time the spell perfectly. If I had told you in advance, the effect might not have been as good." A groan suddenly came from the foot of the wall. "Harry." "Ron, are you okay?" Harry called out, rushing over. "It's okay," Ron replied, wincing. "I just feel a little pain in my back, and my foot seems to be twisted, but it's not a big problem. Just hang in there for a bit." "I'll be right there," Harry said, breathing a sigh of relief. He then turned his attention back to the chessboard, his mind already working on their next move. Chapter 85. Simple Logical Reasoning Questions. "You are checkmate." As the words fell, the White King released the long sword in his hand, and the remaining white chess pieces retreated one after another, silently announcing the outcome of the game. "We won?" Ron said in surprise, as if he still couldn't believe it. "We won, but it's not over yet," Aaron replied, looking at the door guarded by the white chess pieces. "The subsequent levels will definitely not be easier than the previous ones, and we still have to face a big boss." "Ron, can you manage on your own?" Harry asked with some concern. "Well, yes," Ron replied hesitantly. "Then I'm sorry, but you'll have to wait for us here. You shouldn't participate in the rest of the levels," Harry said. "What? But I've come this far," Ron protested, standing up. However, as he took his first step, he staggered and almost lost his footing. "You stay here," Hermione insisted. "We can't carry you through the next challenges. If we encounter any dangerous traps, we won't be able to protect you." "You don't want to put us in danger either," Aaron added bluntly. Ron opened his mouth to argue, but then fell silent. Reluctantly, he lay back down. Although he didn't want to admit it, he knew he was a burden to the team now. In a normal situation, it might just slow them down, but at this critical moment, it could make things much more dangerous for everyone else. "A wise decision," Aaron chuckled, then moved on to the next level. Hermione and Harry gave Ron an apologetic look before following Aaron through the next door. As they pushed open the door, a foul stench hit them. They saw a familiar magical creature, a troll. But this troll was in worse shape than the one they had seen on Halloween. It lay motionless on the floor with a large lump on its head. "Great, it looks like we won't have to fight trolls," said Harry. Aaron rolled his eyes. "Actually, you can think of it this way. The person who came in first was very powerful and defeated a giant monster in a flash. Harry's expression froze, but after thinking about it, he realized it made sense. If the intruder was mediocre, they wouldn't have the courage to come to Hogwarts to steal something. "Let's get out of here first," Hermione said, covering her mouth and nose. "If we stay any longer, we'll suffocate." The three of them quickly bypassed the giant monster and pushed open the next door. Inside, there was no magic, just a table with 7 bottles of various shapes. "This level should be designed by Professor Snape," Aaron said thoughtfully. "Isn't it about preparing potions? If so, I suggest we turn around and go back immediately. It would be very time-consuming, and the mysterious man might succeed before we finish preparing the potion." Harry took a deep breath and stepped forward. Instantly, purple flames blocked the door they had entered, and black flames shot up from the next door. "Beautiful." Aaron's eyes twitched. As expected of Professor Snape, he really doesn't leave any retreat. "Now we have to," Hermione shrugged, then walked to the table, picked up a piece of parchment on it, and read aloud, "Danger ahead, safety behind. 2 of us can help you. Drink them down. 1 will lead you forward, and 1 will send you back to where you came from. 2 contain nettle wine, and 3 are killers, waiting in line. Choose, unless you wish to stay here forever. We also provide 4 clues to help you choose. First, no matter how cunningly the poisons hide, they stand to the left of the nettle wine. Second, the contents of the bottles on the left and right are different, and if you want to move forward, none of them will be useful to you. Thirdly, you will find that the bottles are of different sizes, and there is no death hidden in giants and dwarfs. Fourth, the second on the left and the second on the right, although the appearance is different, the taste is the same. After Hermione finished reading, her eyes glowed with confidence. This is not magic, it's logical reasoning. It's wonderful, as expected of Professor Snape. A wizard who can't reason would be trapped here forever, Hermione said, her voice tinged with admiration. Don't get too excited. I don't want us to be trapped here, Harry replied, his tone cautious. What are you thinking about? This kind of logic problem can be solved in less than half a minute. If it were about preparing potions, maybe there would be some labor gains, but it's really a bit speechless, Aaron interjected confidently. Half a minute? Hermione froze for a moment, then turned to look at the 7 bottles. Are you kidding me? It would take me at least a minute or 2 to sort them out. Harry stood aside silently, trying to suppress his presence as much as possible. Was he the only one who thought this level was difficult? Or was there really such a big difference between the world of a top student and a struggling one? It's nothing difficult. The most important thing with this kind of question is to analyze step by step, Aaron said as he walked to the table. He took a brief sniff and pointed to the second bottle on the left and the second bottle on the right. They smell the same. Professor Snape is really rich. This kind of nettle wine is rare in the market, at least 20 years old. The first one on the left is poison. The second, third, fourth, and fifth bottles are mixed with poison. The bottle on the far right is neither poison nor nettle wine, but it won't help us move forward. It will just send us away. The big bottle is the giant, and the smallest bottle in the middle is the dwarf, which helps us move on. After finishing, Aaron spread his hands. It takes less than 20 seconds. How easy is that? Harry and Ron stared at him, dumbfounded and speechless in surprise. Surely you want the bottle to go through the black flames, don't you, Harry? Aaron asked. Yes. Harry nodded solemnly. Very good. Aaron looked at Hermione and handed her the large bottle. Drink it, go out, and return the same way. But what about you? Hermione asked, concerned. I'll go, said Harry. This little bottle only has 1 mouthful, maybe less than 1 mouthful, and it should only be enough for 1 person to pass through. Aaron, you go back with Hermione and then send a message to Dumbledore asking him to come save us. This matter has nothing to do with you. I tried my best to delay Snape, but it may not be for long. Idiot, Aaron said disdainfully. I only agree to let Hermione go back. I'm against everything else. Why? Harry asked suspiciously. First of all, the person inside is definitely not Professor Snape. I've said it countless times, but you always have to be preconceived. Secondly, sending a letter to Dumbledore at this time is pointless. By the time he comes back, he might only be able to collect your body. The most important thing is, I thought of everything you thought of, and I thought of everything you didn't think of, Aaron explained. Seeing Harry's confused expression, he sighed. Forget it. I can't explain it clearly to you. Just understand one thing. I have my reasons for preventing the Dark Lord from being resurrected, and it has nothing to do with me. Was it the one in the Forbidden Forest? Hermione asked tentatively. After all, back then in the Forbidden Forest, the man in black had been very interested in Aaron, even willing to give up the blood of the unicorn to catch him. If Hagrid hadn't come in time, the consequences might have been serious. Forbidden Forest? Several question marks flashed above Aaron's head. Yes, that was the time. The most embarrassing moment in my life. If I don't get back at him, I will be in a panic. But, Harry swallowed. How are you going to stop him? If it wasn't Snape, it could only be you-know-who. I have this scar on my head. Maybe it can turn evil into good fortune. How about you? Don't worry about it. He can't bear to kill me, Aaron said confidently. Hermione nodded, deeply convinced. It's true. Well, even so, he can arrest you, Harry argued. He won't have the chance, Aaron said meaningfully. Anyway, unlike you, I never do things without a plan. I'm not sure about that, nor do I do things without thinking, Harry said, his voice tinged with frustration. Harry, why does this sound so wrong? There's another problem, Hermione interjected, holding up a small bottle. There's only enough potion for one person, but there are two of us. Cut, Aaron scoffed, curling his lips in disdain. He picked up the nettle wine from the table and poured the contents of the small bottle into it. Let's not worry about it. This will be enough for 2 people, maybe even 3. Then what about me? Hermione began, but Aaron interrupted her before she could finish. Don't talk yet, he commanded. Drink another bottle of potion and leave here. That's what you should do. No, I don't agree, Hermione protested. It's not up to you to agree or disagree, Aaron replied, taking out his wand. I won't harm a girl, but this is for your own good. You'll understand once you're outside. You, Hermione's lips trembled as she spoke. You really can't? No, Aaron said firmly. Don't even think about it. There's no need to discuss this matter further. Hermione sighed deeply, her eyes reddening with unshed tears. She glared at Aaron, then reluctantly picked up the bulging bottle and took a swig. Chapter 86. This mirror is not quite right. After drinking the potion from the small bottle, Harry and Aaron felt a cold sensation spread throughout their bodies. However, the potion's effect was evident. As they passed through the layer of black flames, they felt nothing, as if the flames didn't exist. The two walked through a long corridor and arrived at the final room. There were no mechanisms here, only the mirror of Erised and someone standing in front of it. But it wasn't Professor Snape, nor the mysterious man. It was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Professor Quirrell. Through the reflection in the mirror, Harry saw the face of the person whose back was turned to them and gasped in shock. It's you. No, it couldn't be. It was Snape. He was. How many times have I told you? Aaron shook his head, exasperated. It's not Professor Snape. You never believed me. Well, now the facts speak for themselves. You can't deny it. Professor Quirrell turned around, his face cold and unrecognizable from his usual demeanor. I didn't expect to meet you here, Potter. And what a surprise to see you too, Aaron Gaius. Ah, should I feel honored? After all, not everyone catches Voldemort's attention. Voldemort? Harry froze for a moment, then looked at Professor Quirrell in astonishment. You said he was Voldemort? Of course not. Professor Quirrell is just a poor possessed creature. But it should be voluntary. Although the Dark Lord is lingering, it is undeniable that he has great resources and can bestow what ordinary people most desire: money, life, knowledge, power, or power. I suddenly understand why the Master values you so much, Quirrell laughed. But how did you know? Shouldn't everyone be suspicious of Snape like Harry Potter? After all, he doesn't look like a good guy and often makes things difficult for Gryffindor, while Professor Quirrell is just a stammering coward who can't even speak well. I have a magical animal that is particularly sensitive to certain cold and dark atmospheres. You hide it well, but you are too weak, which inevitably reveals a flaw. During a Defense Against the Dark Arts class, my pet keenly sensed something repulsive. At first, I didn't pay attention to it, but I happened to notice the flash of killing intent in your eyes. Compared to my peers, I am quite knowledgeable, but the look in your eyes still made me feel uneasy. Just imagine, how could a person who stutters and trembles when he speaks have that kind of look in his eyes? You have definitely killed people, and more than one. I've been suspicious of you ever since. Clap, 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 Professor Quirrell applauded. That's quite impressive, but this is just a suspicion, right? It's doubtful, but that look alone was enough for me to conclude that you are not a good person. Additionally, after the Forbidden Forest incident, Professor Snape and Professor Dumbledore approached me, but it was all for official business and specific reasons. Only you, the Defense Against the Dark Arts professor, wanted to talk to me alone, supposedly to guide me in my studies. Isn't it common for teachers to give more attention to outstanding students? Quirrell said, his face contorted. That's reasonable, but by that point, you'd already been labeled a bad guy by me. I had just injured the black-robed man in the Forbidden Forest, and the professor who usually had no contact with me suddenly wanted to guide me. It's hard not to be suspicious. Additionally, the scar on Harry Potter's forehead, the unicorn blood that can sustain life, the Philosopher's Stone that can grant immortality, and a mysterious man in black who dares not show his true face, all these connections led me to conclude that you are the one possessed by Voldemort. Hearing this, Quirrell's expression darkened. Professor Quirrell lowered his head sullenly and remained silent. Harry pursed his lips, feeling a sudden clarity. What about Professor Snape? He jinxed my broom on the Quidditch pitch, Harry asked. Aaron was about to explain when Quirrell suddenly interjected. Actually, I wanted to harm you, and Snape was chanting to break the spell. If your friend Miss Granger hadn't come to light the fire and blocked my view, I could have killed you in half a minute at most. Understood? Aaron glanced at the dazed Harry and said, Our head of Slytherin wanted to save you, but you wronged him for most of the semester. You owe him an apology. Harry nodded blankly. But I always feel that he hates me very much. Of course he hates you, but the reason for hating you is your father. However, he never wanted you to die. I knew from the start that you were a threat, especially after Halloween. I let the troll out, distracted everyone, and thought I would succeed, but Dumbledore's magic stopped me. After that, Snape came to my door. He was more sensitive than anyone else, suspicious of me, frightened me, threatened me. But he didn't understand that his threats were useless because I was not alone. Professor Quirrell turned around and looked at the mirror of Erised, his eyes full of greed. What is this mirror for? I saw my desire. I dedicated the Philosopher's Stone to my master. But how do I get it? What you see may not be true, Aaron spread his hands. This level was designed by Dumbledore. He is old and wise, and his wisdom is not simple. At worst I'll smash this mirror. I have plenty of time, and when Dumbledore comes back from London, I'll be flying away with the Philosopher's Stone. You can try it, but you might not get anything if you break this mirror. Use these two children, a hoarse voice echoed in the room. Professor Quirrell suddenly turned around to look at the two of them and shouted sharply, You two, come here. Aaron and Harry looked at each other and walked forward slowly. Look in this mirror and tell me what you see. The two looked at the mirror, but they were not very nervous. After all, it was not the first time for them to look at the mirror of Erised, and they had some experience. Suddenly, Dumbledore appeared in the ordinary mirror. Holding a blood-red stone in his hand, he glanced back and forth between Aaron and Harry in the mirror, and finally stopped on Aaron. Aaron in the mirror looked distressed and waved his hands, signaling him to hand over the Philosopher's Stone to Harry. But in the end, he couldn't hold back the elderly man, and he put the stone in his pocket. Harry was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously glanced at Aaron's pocket and found that it had bulged a lot. He immediately understood where the Philosopher's Stone was. How? Professor Quirrell asked. What did you see? Tell me. Harry was taken aback, and after realizing it, he knew that he must not show his flaws. He immediately said, I saw that I was shaking Dumbledore's hand, and I also won the Academy Cup. Quirrell rolled his eyes, pushed him away, and stared at Aaron with piercing eyes. What about you? What did you see? How is this possible? I saw myself dedicating the Sorcerer's Stone to the Dark Lord, and then carrying on his legacy decades later as the third Dark Lord, Aaron said, feigning seriousness. His acting skills were convincing, but internally, he cursed Dumbledore. That old bastard definitely did it on purpose. In order to protect Harry, he actually pushed out his Slytherin as a shield, but it's not that easy to pull me into the pit. Master, Professor Quirrell asked hesitantly. What should I do? Some of them must be lying, or both of them. A sharp voice came from the back of Quirrell's head. Let me talk to them. But Master, your physical strength is not enough. Enough. Quirrell untied the purple turban wrapped around his head. Aaron turned to face the two figures. Where the back of his head should have been, there was an additional human face. Through the mirror of Erised, Harry could see it clearly. He had never seen such a hideous and terrifying visage, like a ghost crawling out of hell. I thought you could still look somewhat human, but now it seems I was mistaken, Aaron remarked with some emotion. Long time no see, Aaron Gaius, Voldemort said meaningfully. This is our first real meeting, although it may not be under the best circumstances. Indeed, it's not very good, Aaron replied. I need the Philosopher's Stone to reshape my body, and you can help me with this, Voldemort continued, his tone laden with significance. Harry's heart skipped a beat. Could Voldemort possibly know where the Philosopher's Stone was? He shook his head at Aaron, silently praying that Aaron wouldn't be swayed. Aaron smiled indifferently and, to the astonishment of everyone present, pulled a red stone from his pocket. Is this what you want? He asked. Chapter 87. I don't want this hot potato. Of course, Voldemort said, his voice dripping with temptation as he looked at the red gem in Aaron's hand through the mirror. Give it to me, and I can give you everything you desire. Aaron smiled disdainfully. I'm very sorry, but I don't seem to want anything. In other words, you can't give me what I want. Voldemort laughed loudly. As expected of a Slytherin, you are as ambitious as I once was. Don't lecture me about ambition, Aaron replied, playing with the Philosopher's Stone. Everyone has ambition, it's just a matter of degree. To be honest, I don't want to give it to you. You will give it to me, Voldemort said confidently. Didn't you just say that you would serve me and become the third Dark Lord? While this may be an impromptu lie you've spun to deceive the world, it can turn out to be true. You have the noblest and oldest blood in the magical world, and you are qualified to be my successor. I will do my best to train you. Aaron smiled, seemingly embarrassed, and ignored the anxiety on Harry's face. But it seems that this condition is not enough to earn my allegiance. I advise you not to be ignorant of good and evil, Professor Quirrell said viciously. It is your great honor that Lord Voldemort has taken a fancy to you. Shut up, it's not your turn to speak, Voldemort said in a hoarse voice. Quirrell immediately fell silent, his face full of horror. Reject my offer, and do you know the consequences? Voldemort asked. I know very well, Aaron replied. After a few seconds of silence, Voldemort smiled again, his face twisted and hideous. You are very similar to me back then, and you do have the ability to refuse my offer. I have studied the 4 hermit families, and the results are shocking and unimaginable. Your family has existed since the beginning of the magical age, perhaps even longer. Even pure-blood families have their periods of glory and decline, but your family seems to have been developing steadily. Not even the grand wars that have swept across the magical world for thousands of years have affected you. These few families, who hardly care about the big and small affairs of the magical world, have huge privileges, but no one questions it. It seems that you should enjoy these powers as a matter of course. That's because we never abuse those privileges, Aaron said primly. Never. Humph. Save that nonsense to deceive others, Voldemort sneered. I will figure it out sooner or later, but for now, give me the Philosopher's Stone. Didn't I say that I don't want to give it to you? Aaron said meaningfully. He then turned to Harry and placed the Philosopher's Stone in his hand, right in front of Voldemort. Why? Why? Harry stammered, holding the Philosopher's Stone, but feeling utterly lost. Dumbledore chose you, and he hoped that you could protect the Philosopher's Stone. But I choose you, Harry Potter. You are more courageous than I am, and you are the last person who wants Voldemort to get the Philosopher's Stone. I am good at protecting my life wisely. Between life and the Sorcerer's Stone, I will choose the former without hesitation. Aaron said seriously, not giving Harry a chance to refuse. Dumbledore had placed the Sorcerer's Stone with Aaron to give Harry Potter an extra layer of protection. As the heir of a hidden family, Aaron had his own means of safeguarding his life. If Voldemort harmed Aaron, he would inevitably face a powerful wizarding family, which would be beneficial to Dumbledore and harmless to Aaron. However, Dumbledore would never have thought that Aaron would place the most dangerous Philosopher's Stone in Harry Potter's hand. Aaron didn't want this hot potato. If he didn't throw it away sooner, why not keep it for the winter? Aaron, you have lost a shortcut to reach the sky in one step, Voldemort said regretfully. He then looked at Harry Potter in the mirror. If you don't want to end up like your parents, give me the Philosopher's Stone. Give me the Philosopher's Stone, Voldemort demanded. Don't even think about it, Harry retorted, staggering back a few steps. Only when Voldemort's gaze focused on him did he realize how difficult it was to talk to Voldemort on an equal footing. Unlike Harren's, they were as brave as you. They would rather die than submit, but they died anyway. Give me the Philosopher's Stone, and I promise not to kill you. I can even bring your parents back from the dead. Harry, don't let your mother have died for nothing. Harry hesitated for a moment, then sprinted for the stairs. Catch him, cried Voldemort. Professor Quirrell immediately stretched out his right hand, but just as he was about to cast a spell, another spell hit his arm, terminating his attempt. Run! You must run as hard as you can, Aaron shouted. I will buy you a little time, but it won't be more than 10 seconds. Tears welled up in Harry's eyes. He looked back once and then rushed out of the room without hesitation. Do you think he can escape? Voldemort asked coldly. You should know how long these checkpoints are. Who knows? Aaron spread his hands. When he saw Quirrell take out his wand, he immediately became vigilant. I don't think you should waste time on me right now. He can't run. After dealing with you, I will kill Harry Potter and then give the Sorcerer's Stone to my master. There is more than enough time. Leave him alive. Just teach him a little lesson, Voldemort reminded. If he dies, we'll be in a lot of trouble. It's not good for us to deal with that family for the time being. Yes, master. Wait, Aaron said hastily. I never fight a battle I'm not sure of. You should have time to go after Harry now. What do you mean? Voldemort leaned forward, switching his face to Quirrell's. You'd better explain clearly, or you'll be teaching yourself a lesson. Actually, I asked Abe to notify Hagrid before I came. He should be here by now. The giant? Voldemort sneered dismissively. Unless Dumbledore comes back from London, I'm not afraid of anyone at Hogwarts. Of course, with your ability, even if you meet the professors of the Academy, you can escape unscathed. But that's in a normal situation. Your current state is not much better. Completely controlling Quirrell's body consumes your almost exhausted vitality. How long can you last? It's enough to take down a giant. That's true, but Hagrid is smarter than he looks. He wouldn't just stay where he is and wait for the Dark Lord to come out and kill him. With his help, it doesn't seem too difficult to help Harry Potter escape. Voldemort froze for a moment, then quickly cast a curse on Aaron's forehead. Emerald green light flashed, and Aaron rolled his eyes, falling to the ground very cooperatively. Voldemort quickly switched his face to the back of Quirrell's head. Hurry up, Harry Potter mustn't escape. Yes, my master. Quirrell immediately rushed towards the stairs. After he left, Aaron, who was lying on the ground, opened his eyes quickly, a vague smile still hanging on the corner of his mouth. He had managed to fool them, but the next act of this drama was just beginning. He rubbed his forehead and took out a brooch from his clothes, which was covered with dense cracks. This one-time magic armor was obviously unusable now. The Dark Lord has a big name, but his heart is a little too small, Aaron muttered, looking at the brooch with some distress. He was really reluctant to use the prop that could resist the killing curse just like that. Voldemort hadn't used the killing curse just now, and it wouldn't have caused any damage. But that magic would make him have continuous nightmares for the next month, with Voldemort's terrifying and hideous face as the protagonist of the nightmares. It was conceivable that after the effect of this curse, Voldemort would more or less become his psychological shadow. The next time they met, Voldemort would subconsciously feel fear, making it much easier to conquer him. After putting away the brooch, Aaron walked out of the room. At the same time, Hermione returned to the wizard board and briefly explained the situation to Ron. The two hesitated, unsure whether to wait for Aaron and Harry to return or to go back the way they came. Suddenly, a white figure jumped in from the entrance. "Abe," Hermione said in surprise. "Not just it, but the two of us," Professor McGonagall announced as she walked in, followed by Professor Snape, whose face was stern. The two professors looked more disheveled than usual, likely because they had been forcibly woken from their sleep. "Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape, why are you here?" Hermione asked, feeling a mix of guilt and excitement. They had been caught once before for staying out at night, but this time seemed more serious, and they feared expulsion. "It was Mr. Gaius who asked Abe to send us a letter, saying that Professor Quirrell was going to steal the Philosopher's Stone and that we should come to the trapdoor immediately," Professor McGonagall explained angrily. "But I really didn't expect you to be so bold as to break through the trapdoor and come this far." "It's not that you don't believe us," Ron said, unconvinced. In his opinion, if Professor McGonagall had believed them, they wouldn't have taken such a big risk. "How can I trust you? You said that Professor Snape would steal the Philosopher's Stone, but he's standing here right now," Professor McGonagall retorted. Hearing this, Snape's expression darkened further. "Professor McGonagall, I may be strict with Gryffindors, but I didn't expect to attract such baseless suspicion. It's truly disheartening." Chapter 88, 2 verses 1, also called Strong Support. "Sorry, Professor Snape," Professor McGonagall said awkwardly. "I'll ask them to write a 1,000-word apology for you later. It is obviously irrational to doubt school professors without any evidence." Snape snorted coldly, somewhat dissatisfied with this explanation. But Professor McGonagall had already spoken, and as a professor and dean of Hogwarts, he had to give her some face. "Didn't Aaron also suspect Professor Quirrell?" Ron said, a little unconvinced. "Does he have evidence? And why did you rush over here just because he sent a letter from his pet? It's not fair that Harry and I went looking for you in person, and you turned a blind eye." "Unfair?" Professor McGonagall paused for a moment and explained, "It seems that you have misunderstood something. Aaron also had no evidence to prove that Professor Quirrell was plotting against the Sorcerer's Stone, but he made a deal with Dumbledore that he could call two professors once and have them on call." Ron was dumbfounded immediately, and Hermione was also stunned for a long time before showing a look of sudden realization. They understood why Aaron didn't want to enter the trapdoor and why he was so confident that he could stop the mysterious man. The dean of the college can be said to be the strongest force in Hogwarts other than the principal. He could mobilize 2 deans at once, so there was nothing to be afraid of. The only problem was determining the time of the mysterious man's action. Only by grasping this opportunity could it be done once and for all. No wonder he was waiting at the door of the corridor tonight. "So that's the case." Hermione smiled embarrassingly, her mood particularly complicated. Ron also reacted, "But why didn't Aaron tell us earlier? In this way, we wouldn't have had to enter the trapdoor and go through so many complicated levels." "Would it have worked?" Hermione rolled her eyes. "He said he was sure to stop you-know-who from getting the Sorcerer's Stone, and we came here by ourselves. He also advised us to go back more than once, but we didn't want to leave. After breaking through the Devil's Snare, he suggested that we wait where we were, but we were worried that the mysterious person would take advantage of this time to get the Philosopher's Stone and insisted on breaking through the next level." The corner of Ron's mouth twitched. It was true. They had insisted on entering the pit, and Aaron had tried to stop them. Instead of stopping him, they had dragged him in. "Does that mean we came here for nothing?" "It's not in vain. You will let Gryffindor's few scores drop by another notch," Professor Snape said coldly. "What?" Hermione and Ron's hearts suddenly sank. They couldn't accept it. They had already lost 150 points from Gryffindor, which was a historical record. If there was another round, it would be truly embarrassing. "Don't listen to his nonsense. At least your original intentions were good," Professor McGonagall comforted. If someone really wants to steal the Philosopher's Stone, then your actions tonight are not only not at fault, but have merit. That's a relief, Ron breathed a sigh of relief. But why Professor Quirrell? Hermione asked. He doesn't seem like a bold person. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's always right to come and have a look, Professor McGonagall said. Don't talk about that yet, Professor Snape said, looking at the two with a sullen face. Where's my student? Where is he with Harry Potter? If there is no accident, they should be at the last level, Hermione said embarrassingly. The next level is the troll, but it seems to have been subdued in advance. As for the penultimate level, designed by Professor Snape, it took Aaron 20 seconds to pass it. 20 seconds? Are you kidding me? I'm really not kidding. Both Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall were stunned for a moment. They had thought that this level would slow down the pace of the two students, but now it seemed that their plan had not worked. It is a good thing to have an excellent student, but this student is so exceptional that it exceeds the teacher's expectations, causing a bit of embarrassment. Snape took a deep breath and hurried to the next door at a faster pace. Professor McGonagall was also worried. Granger, take Ron and get out of here quickly. If this is true, it could be dangerous. There is a magic broom in the previous level that allows you to fly out of the trapdoor. As for the three-headed dog, it is now asleep, so don't worry. But, no buts, staying here is just a burden, and we cannot afford to be distracted from now on. Hermione nodded and was about to help Ron leave. At that moment, Harry screamed and rushed out of the troll's room, almost bumping into Snape, who had just reached the door. You can't escape, Harry Potter, Professor Quirrell sneered. Hand over the Philosopher's Stone. But when he rushed out of the room, his whole demeanor changed. A few black lines appeared on his pale face. Both Professor Snape and Professor McGonagall were there, and he had walked right into their trap. Professor, save me! Harry was overjoyed, as if catching a ray of light in the darkness. He quickly ran behind Professor McGonagall. Are you all right, Mr. Potter? For the time being, yes. Fortunately, you came in time. Where's Aaron? Snape asked. Harry hesitated, looking at Hermione and the others who focused their attention on him. He lowered his head in shame. I don't know. How could you not know? Hermione couldn't help asking. Didn't you go to the next level together? Yes, we got the Philosopher's Stone from the Mirror of Erised. Dumbledore put the Philosopher's Stone in Aaron's pocket. He handed it to me, and then, to buy me time to escape, he chose to face Professor Quirrell alone. By the way, Professor Quirrell is now possessed by Voldemort, which is particularly terrifying. Hearing this, everyone's hearts sank. Quirrell being here meant Aaron was in danger. It's not true. Hermione staggered back a few steps, seeing darkness in front of her eyes, unable to accept this cruel fact. Hermione, Ron pursed his lips. Cheer up. How can I cheer up? If something happened to him, we should account for at least half of the reasons. Snape wasn't in a good mood. But compared to these young wizards, he was used to facing strong winds and waves, so he calmed down quickly. What did you do to my student? This question shouldn't be asked of me, Snape, Professor Quirrell said flatly. It was Voldemort who did it himself. I didn't kill him, a hoarse voice suddenly sounded. At the same time, a ferocious face appeared from the back of Quirrell's head. That little guy exceeded my expectations, both in terms of talent and temperament. I can't bear to harm such a good seedling, and I am too familiar with Dumbledore. I know his thoughts clearly, so I won't be fooled. It's just that I didn't expect to be outsmarted by a young wizard. Gaius said he notified Hagrid before coming, but he didn't expect it to be the two of you. But it's his ability to deceive me with this little trick. What have you done to him? Snape asked again. Nothing much. Just put a little spell on him to make him sleepless for a month. Voldemort sneered. Severus, I'll give you a chance. Turn from darkness to light. Help me get the Philosopher's Stone, and I... Professor Snape won't help you, Aaron suddenly appeared and said. I thought you guys could fight? That's the end? I'm a little disappointed. How are you? Why wouldn't I be okay? Aaron spread his hands. I made enough preparations before I came, including letters to inform the two professors, the music box that puts the three-headed dog to sleep, the Felix Felicis to improve luck, and life-saving magical props that can resist the full blow of a great magister. In the end, most of them were used, and your spell didn't work on me at all. The current situation. It's already obvious. 2 against 1, you're dead, Aaron declared. Really? Voldemort sneered, casting a mindful glance at Snape. That's not necessarily the case. No, you're really dead, Aaron replied, eyeing the silent Professor Snape thoughtfully. Even if you have any tricks up your sleeve, they won't be useful. Haven't you ever wondered why Hagrid isn't here? The giant? Voldemort paused, an ominous feeling creeping into his heart. Hagrid's absence was unusual, given his concern for the 3 Gryffindors. He should be here. Could it be that? Voldemort began. That's right, Aaron interrupted. After learning that Dumbledore had left the school, I guessed you would make a move. Hagrid, despite his inability to keep secrets, was persuaded to deliver a message to Dumbledore. With Dumbledore's strength, he could return to Hogwarts in half a day if he hurried. I don't think Voldemort in his current state could stand against the White Devil at his peak. Chapter 89, The Last Straw That Broke the Camel's Back. Voldemort was silent for a moment, then silently transformed his face back to that of Quirrell. Using his limited life force and physical strength, he took full control of the body. He loosened his muscles, his joints cracking, and drew Quirrell's wand. It was a 9-inch-long alder stick with a core of unicorn feathers. Although it was not ideal for Lord Voldemort, and it did not feel quite right in his hand, it would have to suffice for now. Aaron took advantage of this time to hide behind the 2 professors, joining Harry and the others. Aaron, I really appreciate you more and more. Dumbledore coming back early is something I never expected, Voldemort sneered. But things are not at the end of the rope for me. As long as I get the Philosopher's Stone before he returns, the upper limit of this body can at most allow me to reach the strength of a great magister. Facing 2 professors is challenging, but not impossible. Then go ahead. As long as you can defeat the 2 professors at Hogwarts, we will offer you the Philosopher's Stone, Aaron replied. I hope you will keep your word, Voldemort grinned, launching an attack. Despite his poor physical condition and weakened strength, a thin camel is still a camel, and he was not inferior even when facing 2 opponents. The green spell and the 2 crimson spells collided continuously, creating deafening noises. The broken pieces on the chessboard spread around under the force of the magic. Aaron watched with great interest, observing this battle that only magisters could join. He was confident that he could reach this level in a short time and wanted to increase his knowledge. Aaron, Harry said anxiously, what nonsense were you talking about just now? How could you give the Philosopher's Stone to Voldemort? I said that for our safety. With Voldemort's arrogance, he probably wouldn't attack us before dealing with the 2 professors, but we still have to be cautious. Besides, if the 2 professors together can't beat him, we can't hold on to the Philosopher's Stone alone. Either we hand it over to save our lives, or he kills us and takes it from our corpses. One option is no loss, no gain, and the other is no return. Which one do you choose? I'd rather die than give in, Harry said indignantly. Well said. Aaron gave a thumbs up, then tapped his wand, and the Philosopher's Stone in Harry's hand flew to his. Before Harry could react, Aaron continued, I appreciate your courage. You don't take your own life seriously, which is not ordinary bravery. But if you don't want to die, it doesn't mean I don't want to die. Voldemort may not let you go, but the 3 of us are different from you and have a chance to survive. Hearing this, Harry struggled. He and Voldemort were mortal enemies. Only one of them could live. But he didn't want to implicate others because of his own reasons. Do you feel particularly conflicted? Aaron joked, seeing Harry's complicated expression. I admit that you have a sense of justice and are a well-deserved Gryffindor, but I must warn you that not taking your own life seriously is not bravery. It is just pure recklessness. Only by living can there be a chance to come back. If you die, there will be nothing left. I am different from you. Unless it is absolutely necessary, I will not go all out, let alone hit a stone with a pebble. If you want to show your ambition by dying, then go by yourself. Don't take me with you. How about we run now? Hermione suggested. Agreed, we should have left here long ago, Ron added. As long as Dumbledore returns, all problems will be solved. Aha, What a great idea. But a friendly reminder, you must be extra careful when you go, and you must be fast. But this is a bit difficult for us, after all, Aaron said, trailing off as the battle raged on. There's still someone wounded here, Hermione said grimly. You mean Voldemort might not let us go? It's not just possible, it's certain. Although he's still fighting with the two professors, he is also keeping part of his attention on us. If there's any change, he'll likely try to injure us and leave us behind. As long as he gets the Philosopher's Stone, he can reshape his body. Quirrell's body doesn't matter to him, Aaron explained. The three of them exchanged worried glances. Harry lowered his head in resignation, but his clenched fists showed his reluctance. Can we really just watch like this? We're wizards, too. We can help the professors. Pull it down, Aaron said, pouring a ladle of cold water on Harry's enthusiasm. Harry froze. Am I wrong? It seems not quite right, Hermione shook her head. Why? Harry asked, confused. Hermione hesitated, and Ron looked away, embarrassed. Aaron smiled playfully, then patted Harry on the shoulder. Take a good look. Is this a battle you can join? Tell me, what level are you now? Should soon be an intermediate magician, Harry admitted, a bit embarrassed. Then please be a little self-aware, okay? At your level, even a sneak attack from behind probably won't be of much use, let alone there's no chance of a sneak attack now. In the battle between the three of them, you three wizards who don't even master offensive spells are just cannon fodder. The aftermath of the spell could knock you out. What about you? Harry asked expectantly. Me? Aaron smiled self-deprecatingly. I'm a little better than you, just a bigger piece of cannon fodder. That means we can only watch here? Hermione asked, unwillingly. No, Aaron said meaningfully. You can still pray. Pray that Dumbledore will come back as soon as possible. After speaking, Aaron found a place to sit and continued to watch the wizard duel on the chessboard. At this point, Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape were struggling. After all, their opponent was the infamous Dark Lord. Although his strength was greatly reduced, if he recklessly squeezed his life and fought desperately, his opponents would have to work hard to have a chance of winning. But the problem was that neither Professor McGonagall nor Professor Snape dared to risk their lives at this time. If they were alone, they might have the courage to fight, even if it meant losing their lives. But with 4 young wizards behind them, they had to reserve some strength to protect these students. Voldemort laughed triumphantly, chanted an obscure incantation, and with a wave of his wand, shot a deadly dark green light. The 2 professors raised their wands in unison, hastily releasing 2 spells, one red and one white, to barely counter the green light. The 3 curses collided fiercely in midair, advancing and retreating like a tug-of-war, locked in a stalemate. Cough, cough! Voldemort suddenly looked ferocious, coughing up a mouthful of black blood. The green light was immediately suppressed by the red and white beams. He quickly adjusted, suppressed his injury, and increased the strength of his magic, pushing the spell back to its previous position. The stalemate continued, with the green curse gradually gaining the upper hand at the cost of Quirrell's body aging visibly. The 2 professors were not faring well either. Their faces were pale, and their foreheads were covered with cold sweat. It's almost time, Aaron murmured, standing up. What's the matter? Harry asked, puzzled. The time has come when we can be the straw that breaks the camel's back, Aaron said. Hearing this, Voldemort couldn't help but laugh. You can try it. Don't mess around, Professor McGonagall warned. You are too weak. This is beyond your control. That's right, Snape said, his expression stern. Don't worry, I'm sure. No, Snape immediately countered. Don't think you can be defiant just because you have a bit of talent. Voldemort's power is beyond your imagination. He can kill you all with one hand. I know, Aaron replied, tossing the red gemstone in his hand. Under the surprised eyes of everyone, he threw it at Voldemort. The Philosopher's Stone cut through the air and hurtled towards Voldemort's head with great speed. Voldemort was momentarily taken aback by the sudden attack, but he quickly regained his composure. With a smirk, he controlled his wand with one hand to fend off the 2 professors and swiftly extended his other hand. The speed of the Philosopher's Stone slowed down instantly, and it began to float towards Voldemort's palm. That's how you do it, Harry muttered, the corners of his mouth twitching. This is bad. Is it too late for us to escape now? Ron asked anxiously. Don't worry, let the Philosopher's Stone fly for a while, Aaron reassured them. As his words fell, a roar echoed from the ceiling. A white shadow swooped down, and just as Voldemort was about to grasp the Philosopher's Stone, a powerful paw struck him hard on the back. Chapter 90. The Impulse to Seize Victory. Boom! Caught off guard by the sudden impact, Voldemort never anticipated an attack from behind, and it succeeded. Not only did he fail to grasp the Sorcerer's Stone, but the continuous output of his magical power was also interrupted. The combined curses of the two professors instantly overwhelmed Voldemort's killing curse and struck him. What? Voldemort screamed, his body trembling with pain. The face of Quirrell, who had been replaced on the back of his head, screamed in unison. Quirrell's condition was far worse than Voldemort's. His face was contorted in agony, and blood streamed from his mouth and nose. Voldemort experienced the pain momentarily, but his state deteriorated rapidly, and he could abandon this body at any time. However, Professor Quirrell, the owner of the body, would suffer irreversible damage until death. Master, I can't hold on any longer. Professor Quirrell stammered, his voice faltering. This time, it wasn't an act, it was genuine. Shut up, you fool. You were supposed to be on guard, and you didn't even notice the sneak attack, Voldemort cursed angrily, turning his attention to the figure that had attacked him. Everyone else also looked at the white figure hovering in midair in astonishment. Is that a dragon? Hermione murmured. It should be. Ron swallowed hard. My brother sent some photos before, and it looks similar to some juvenile dragons, but this is too cool. I'm sure not even Charlie has ever seen a whiter, more divine dragon than a unicorn. Come over, Aaron beckoned, and the young dragon in midair flew down. As it descended, its body rapidly shrank and transformed into the appearance of Abe, with a bright red gemstone dangling from its mouth. Okay, well done. When we get back, you'll be rewarded with a turkey. Aaron patted its head, then took the Philosopher's Stone from its mouth. It's you. Voldemort recognized Abe and remembered being kicked by it in the Forbidden Forest. He was furious and wanted to kill it immediately. But now he was more injured than ever, and his condition was dire. Quirrell's body was deteriorating rapidly, and despite his hatred, Voldemort was powerless to retaliate. After calming down, he became curious about the dragon. In the wizarding world, dragons are the pinnacle of magical creatures, powerful but rare. However, this was the first time he had seen a dragon that could freely control its size, and it was definitely unique. Isn't that it? Doesn't it look familiar? Aaron teased. I thought I wouldn't need Abe to intervene, but your strength forced me to. Fortunately, it succeeded. Humph. This wasn't luck. Your timing was perfect, and I couldn't resist the Philosopher's Stone as bait, Voldemort admitted, looking at Abe, who now seemed far less intimidating. What kind of creature is that? You've been in school for more than half a year. If it were a dragon, it should have grown larger by now. As expected of the Dark Lord, you found the key point immediately, Aaron acknowledged. He knew that with so many people present, Abe's identity couldn't remain a secret. After a moment's thought, he explained, It's normal that you don't know. It is one of our family's inheritances, but it happened to hatch in my generation. It only recognizes the blood of my family, but it grows very slowly. That's an honor, Voldemort said with a dark smile. Seeing such a creature before this body is destroyed makes this trip worthwhile. Quirrell, panicking, pleaded from the back of his head, Master, you can't give up on me. I'm your most loyal servant. Shut up. The Dark Lord will not abandon his loyal servant, Voldemort said coldly. I have faced failure before, but I will never die. I may give you a new life when I return. Thank you, Master. Thank you. Quirrell murmured gratefully, but soon closed his eyes. The back of his head disintegrated into black particles, dissipating into the air, leaving only the front half of his head, still controlled by Voldemort. Hiss! How miserable! Aaron gasped, while Harry, Ron, and Hermione stood with their mouths agape in shock. Professor McGonagall and Professor Snape, however, remained relatively calm. Death was just a relief for him. It was an honor for Quirinus Quirrell to lay down his life for the great Dark Lord, Voldemort said lightly. When you surrender to me in the future, you may come to agree with this sentiment. Aaron felt a surge of frustration. Even now, Voldemort wouldn't let him be. Actually, Harry Potter is better suited than me. It's impossible for me to submit to you, so you might want to focus on him instead." Harry's mouth twitched, and he stared at Aaron with a mix of confusion and resentment. "You don't need to remind me. I never intended to let him go," Voldemort said angrily. "Trust me, time will tell. In the future, you will find that becoming my heir is your best choice." Aaron pondered for a moment, then looked at the two professors. "And Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape, I have a request. Leave him to me later. I will personally send him on his way." "This isn't appropriate," Professor McGonagall said, clearly taken aback. Although Aaron's actions had weakened Voldemort significantly, it was unthinkable to let a 12-year-old student kill someone, even if the target was the Dark Lord. Professor Snape remained silent, his expression unreadable. "Severus, let him do it," Voldemort laughed loudly. "Stepping on the second generation of the Dark Lord, he is indeed my chosen heir." Aaron couldn't help but curse inwardly. He had only intended to follow the professors and deliver the final blow, but now he felt an unexpected urge to take the lead. He didn't want to inherit such a dark legacy and stand against the magical world. He could have easily stayed out of it, but now he was being pushed into a corner. "Are you sure?" Professor Snape asked, frowning. "It's not your place to teach me how to do things. I know exactly what I'm talking about," Voldemort roared. Harry Potter became a celebrity in the wizarding world at the cost of his parents' lives, but he has earned my respect with his faith, wisdom, and courage. "Understood," Snape replied. "Snape, I don't approve of this." "Aaron is just a 12-year-old kid," Professor McGonagall protested. "Professor McGonagall, he doesn't have much time," Snape said flatly. "Voldemort is a significant figure in the wizarding world, and we should respect his wishes before he dies. Besides, this is what Aaron wants too. No, he is also my student, and he shouldn't be exposed to these things at such a young age. Don't forget his origin. It might be beneficial for him to be exposed to these things earlier," Snape retorted. Sooner or later, Voldemort would make a comeback, and the entire wizarding world would be in turmoil. Aaron, as the heir to the Gaius family, would inevitably face this reality. "Have you finished discussing?" Voldemort asked impatiently. "Let's start now. I will use your defeat to demonstrate the power of black magic." Avada Kedavra! A green light flashed from Quirrell's wand. Snape and Professor McGonagall immediately countered with their own spells. The two white rays of light merged, becoming thicker, and collided with the green killing curse. Boom! The magic power spread outward, creating a shockwave that rippled through the room. At the midpoint of the spell collision, the shockwave scattered debris across the ground, and the flying dust filled the entire room. Aaron and the others, who were watching the battle, could only vaguely hear the sound of a few heavy objects falling to the ground. "Professor, are you all right?" Harry asked nervously. A shaky figure emerged from the dust. It was the weakened Voldemort, who left a horrifying smile on their faces before turning his gaze to Aaron. Hey, don't look at me like that. I'm scared," Aaron said sarcastically. "I don't see where you look scared," Voldemort replied hoarsely. "Look at them all trembling. They don't even have the courage to face me. But you're different. It's nice to have 2 wands in your sleeves, ready to go. You want to kill me? It's easy. You can do it easily." "Crazy," Aaron said, dropping the pretense and pulling out 2 wands. "You only have the strength to wait for death. Otherwise, I would run faster than anyone else." "Sure enough, you are just like me when I was young," Voldemort mused. "Don't be funny. I'm nothing like you," Aaron retorted. "Thinking of me as an idiot like you is your biggest mistake. Any last words?" "Dumbledore can't give you what you want. I'm waiting for you to come to me," Voldemort said, his voice filled with a sinister promise. Chapter 91. The Death of Lord Voldemort. Swish! The black wand sliced across Voldemort's neck. A silver light flashed, followed by a red and blackened bloodline. Voldemort left a meaningful smile, and his body dissipated like sand, leaving only a tattered piece of clothing behind. "Huh!" Aaron took a deep breath. "It's over." "Is he dead?" Harry asked boldly. "It should be," Aaron replied, wiping the sweat from his forehead with slightly trembling hands. He collapsed onto the floor. It was his first time killing someone. Although the victim was heinous and had plotted against him, Aaron was not mentally prepared for the act. Initially, he felt joy. After planning for so long, it had finally succeeded. But after doing it, he felt fear and disgust. Voldemort's end was too miserable, leaving a psychological shadow on him. "This is too cruel," Hermione said, frowning as she looked at the pile of debris on the ground. "You have to recognize reality. If I hadn't done anything, we would be the ones dead," Aaron said slowly. His voice was low, but his attitude was firm. "That's right," a hoarse voice came from the debris. Strands of black air condensed together, forming an illusory and terrifying black shadow floating in midair. "Fuck! It's not dead," Aaron shuddered immediately, and the three of them, including Harry, backed towards the corner. "No, you've already killed me once. I'm weak, not even a ghost, but I don't die so easily." The shadow looked at Aaron with red eyes. "How does it feel to kill someone for the first time? Isn't it wonderful? Does it make you unable to extricate yourself?" "Gulp," Aaron swallowed. "No, I just don't want to try again." "Not necessarily," the shadow replied. "Dumbledore will be back soon," Harry said threateningly, his face anxious. "If I were you, I'd get out of here quickly." "That's right, my current situation can't last long, but I can give you a gift before I leave," Voldemort said meaningfully, then quickly rushed towards the four of them. The combination of the body made of black mist, the red eyes, and the face without any features looming under the firelight cast a layer of haze on their hearts. "Burning flames!" Aaron made a decisive decision, waved his wand, and shot a burst of fire. But the black shadow passed through the flames without hindrance, bypassed Abe, who was standing in front of the protector, and passed through his chest. Aaron's eyes went dark, and he felt dizzy, gradually closing his eyes. As he fell, he vaguely saw 3 Gryffindors who were terrified but still standing, and couldn't help feeling a tightness in his chest. Why was I the only one injured? A day later, Aaron blinked and saw the somewhat familiar ceiling and floor-to-ceiling windows. The sun shone through the window onto the open space in front of his bed, and a neatly dressed, cute creature was napping on his right hand. "Still alive. It seems I am lucky." "Of course you're lucky," Snape's voice came from the right. "It's just a little fright, but it's a sweet dream." "Professor, why are you here?" Aaron turned his head, but soon fell into a dazed state. Snape hadn't come to visit him. He was also lying on a hospital bed. His condition was not good, with one arm wrapped in a thick bandage, making his face even more grim. Are you injured?" "What do you think?" Snape asked back. "Voldemort is a strong man on the same level as Dumbledore. Under normal circumstances, we are no match for him at all. With the help of Quirrell's body, he exerted part of his strength and even squeezed his life. He fought us face to face with the attitude of failure or benevolence. It is not bad to win miserably." The corner of Aaron's mouth twitched, a little speechless. "Miserable victory? Is that a miserable victory? When we were cornered by Voldemort, you and Professor McGonagall didn't move at all, probably. If it was a tragic victory, it was also a tragic victory for Voldemort. He dragged his half-dead body and forcibly defeated the 2 deans, although he also entered the countdown to Day-Ath. He was absolutely hopeless. Otherwise, he would never have let go of the opportunity to snatch the Philosopher's Stone." "There seems to be something wrong with your expression. Are you questioning what I said?" Snape's voice was sharp. "No, absolutely not. It's just, Professor, are you sure it was a miserable victory, not a narrow defeat?" Aaron asked hesitantly. "Of course, it was a miserable victory. Although we lost consciousness, the last spell also separated his spirit body, rendering it without any threat. Otherwise, do you think you would still be alive?" Snape's stern expression softened slightly, revealing a hint of satisfaction. Aaron could sense the pleasure of revenge in Snape's demeanor, and reluctantly admitted the answer. "Where's Professor McGonagall? Is she all right?" "I am here," came a voice from Aaron's left. He turned his head and saw Professor McGonagall, her right arm bandaged, just like Snape's. "Professor McGonagall, it seems that you are also seriously injured," Aaron exclaimed. "It's just that the hand holding the wand is hurt a little, but Madame Pomfrey insists we need to rest for 2 days. "Professor Snape is probably doing well," McGonagall replied, her tone light. "Then what are you still doing here? Occupying a bed?" Aaron asked, puzzled. "In the infirmary, you have to listen to the doctor. Moreover, being hospitalized has its benefits. The official affairs of Gryffindor and Slytherin House have been handed over to the headmaster temporarily. It's rare to have a little ease. Professor McGonagall sat up while speaking, took a newspaper from the table, and read it with relish. It was only then that Aaron noticed the table next to the two deans was full of gifts, chocolates, famous wines, and flowers. But his table had only a few bouquets of flowers and nothing else. It hurts. It's so heartbreaking. Although I'm not as popular as you guys, the difference can't be that big, Aaron lamented. What did you say? Snape sneered. Actually, you are more popular than us. The students, teachers, and staff of the 4 houses have all visited you. The 2 of us are more like incidental. But who made you have a pet with a voracious appetite? Dragons are not as greedy as it is. Hearing this, Aaron looked thoughtfully at the dozing Abe. He pressed the faucet hard to wake Abe from his sleep. The dragon, whose dream was interrupted, got up a little angry, flapped its claws, and slapped Aaron's palm away. Just as it bared its teeth and was about to growl, it saw its owner's unkind face. Abe's demeanor changed instantly. He pretended to be innocent and threw himself into Aaron's arms, rubbing his dragon face against his chest. Hagrid's magical animals are not exaggerated, Snape said with emotion. Stop making trouble. Come down to me, Aaron commanded, grabbing Abe and placing it in front of him. He pointed to the table with only flowers left. Don't tell me you ate everything. I don't mind the gifts, but you should have left some for your master. Abe froze for a moment, then stretched out his paws and began to take things out of his pockets. Chocolate, fruit, candy, and all kinds of snacks were placed on the table, piling up into a hill in a short while, more than the 2 professors combined. This. Aaron was stunned for a moment, then patted Abe on the head with a light smile. That's right, sensible. The untraceable extension charm, Professor McGonagall said in surprise. You actually used this kind of spell on a pet's clothes. It's not an ordinary pet, Aaron smiled, stroking the dragon. It's my family. It followed me when it hatched from the egg. My parents love it and prepare a lot of things for it. Even the recipe is special. Aaron, what kind of creature is it? Professor McGonagall asked seriously. This, can you not say it? Aaron hesitated. Cannot. You may not know that Hagrid was expelled for keeping a dangerous creature, McGonagall insisted. Professor McGonagall, Aaron began earnestly, I understand the seriousness of the matter, but Abe is different. If it hadn't attacked Voldemort at a critical moment, you and Professor Snape might have been more seriously injured. In other words, it indirectly helped you, even saved you. Professor McGonagall opened her mouth to respond, but found herself at a loss for words. She glanced at the white creature nestled in Aaron's arms. This magical being, suspected of being a dragon, had sent them a letter and played a significant role in their battle. It was one of the main contributors to preventing Voldemort's resurrection. Now that the crisis had passed, clinging to its identity seemed almost petty, and Professor McGonagall felt a twinge of embarrassment. Actually, we don't want to put you in a difficult position, Snape interjected, his gaze piercing as he looked at Aaron. We could pretend we don't know anything, but Dumbledore is already aware. As the headmaster of Hogwarts, he has a responsibility to understand what this magical creature is and how dangerous it might be. You need to give him an explanation. Aaron nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. I will speak with Dumbledore, he said resolutely. Abe has proven to be an ally, and I believe he will see that too. Professor McGonagall sighed, her stern expression softening slightly. Very well, Aaron. Just be prepared for whatever decision Dumbledore makes. With that, the conversation ended, leaving Aaron to ponder the upcoming discussion with the headmaster. He hoped that Dumbledore would recognize Abe's value and allow the creature to stay at Hogwarts. Chapter 92. In the afternoon, Aaron walked out of the infirmary accompanied by 2 college professors. Madame Pomfrey's expression was notably displeased as she left. From her professional perspective, although the 3 patients seemed to have fully recovered physically, their mental states were clearly not optimal, and they needed a day or 2 of rest. The trio's destination was clear, Dumbledore's headmaster's office. Aaron walked between the 2 professors, holding a cute white pet in his arms, looking every bit the part of a wealthy young man. Although he was indeed affluent, at this moment, Aaron felt particularly embarrassed. The professor's eyes were fixed on Abe, the pet in his arms, giving the impression that the pet's status was even higher than his own. Professors, it's really not a big deal. Although Abe is a magical animal, it's not like you haven't seen one before, Aaron said, feeling somewhat awkward. You don't need to accompany me. It's not like I haven't been to the headmaster's office before. I used to think of Abe as a naughty and cute cat, Professor McGonagall said with a slight smile. I even fed him snacks. Can you imagine how excited I was when I found out he was a magical animal? Not everyone can be friends with magical creatures like Hagrid. He has incredible patience and has cultivated deep bonds with them since childhood. But even Hagrid has never truly tamed a dragon. Yet you have raised a dragon and tamed it so well. Professor McGonagall, it's too early to definitively call it a dragon. Dragons can't control their size, and they certainly aren't this obedient, Professor Snape interjected meaningfully. You'd better ensure that it's not harmful and won't suddenly explode and hurt people. Otherwise, it's not as simple as sending it home. Hagrid was expelled from school for keeping a dangerous magical creature, and that creature still lives in the Forbidden Forest. You know the dragon that just hatched was sent to Romania, so think about how to explain this, or the consequences could be severe. Aaron paused for a moment, then let out a long sigh. Thank you for your concern, Professor, but I don't think I'll need to explain much. No, you mustn't think that way. Professor McGonagall's smile vanished instantly. Dumbledore is a benevolent and kind headmaster, but because of this, you need to explain everything clearly to him so he can understand. But don't worry too much. Abe is a hero after all. Professor Snape and I will vouch for you. The worst outcome is that you won't be able to keep him at school, but you won't face any serious punishment. Aaron's mouth twitched. Not being able to keep Abe felt like a punishment to him. However, thinking of the letter of guarantee he had prepared, Aaron felt reassured. In all fairness, he didn't want to be exposed so early. Acting as low-key as possible and developing steadily was the correct route for him now. But if Dumbledore insisted on addressing Abe's identity as a magical animal, then he could only present the license for raising dragons. This was necessary, given that he was raising a holy dragon, an unprecedented creature that could cause a stir in the magical world. Planning ahead was essential. As they reached the 5th floor, the three encountered Harry Potter. Aaron, professors, Harry said in surprise. You've recovered. There was nothing seriously wrong with us. Madame Pomfrey just made a big fuss, Aaron replied, feeling exasperated. He didn't like dealing with doctors because patients had to listen to them regardless of their status or willingness. You all lost consciousness at the time, and we were all panicked. Fortunately, Dumbledore came back in time. Otherwise, we wouldn't have known what to do. Aaron opened his mouth, but found himself at a loss for words. He had worked so hard to plan and prepare for this moment. The two professors of what happened last night. I must commend you for your bravery and quick thinking. However, I am concerned about the potential consequences of your actions. Aaron nodded, his expression serious. I understand, Professor, but I felt it was necessary to act. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled behind his half-moon spectacles. Indeed, sometimes we must take risks for the greater good. But remember, Aaron, discretion is often the better part of valor. Now, about the events of last night spreading through the school. Aaron interrupted. Professor, I suspect you might have had a hand in that. Dumbledore raised an eyebrow, his smile never wavering. An interesting theory, Aaron, but I assure you, my intention was not to expose you or your friends. Sometimes news has a way of traveling on its own, especially in a place like Hogwarts. Aaron remained skeptical, but chose not to press the issue further. I see. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss, Professor? Yes, Dumbledore said, his tone becoming more serious. I want you to be cautious. The Dark Lord's followers are still out there, and they will not take kindly to anyone who stands in their way. You have shown great promise, Aaron, but with that comes great responsibility. Aaron nodded again, feeling the weight of Dumbledore's words. I understand, Professor. I'll be careful. Good, Dumbledore said, his smile returning. Now, if there's nothing else, you may go. And remember, my door is always open if you need to talk. Aaron stood up, feeling a mix of relief and apprehension. Thank you, Professor. As he left the office, he He couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. He glanced back to see Hagrid still beaming at him, and Snape's inscrutable expression. Professor McGonagall gave him a reassuring nod. Outside the office, Harry was waiting for him. "How did it go?" he asked. Aaron shrugged. "As well as could be expected. Dumbledore gave me some advice and returned my potion." Harry's eyes widened. "The resurrection potion? You got it back?" Aaron nodded. "Yes, but he warned me to keep it a secret." Harry looked thoughtful. "Makes sense. That kind of potion could attract a lot of unwanted attention." "Exactly," Aaron agreed. "Let's just keep our heads down for now and focus on our studies." Harry grinned. "Sounds like a plan. But you know, Aaron, you're becoming quite the legend around here." Aaron rolled his eyes. "Great, just what I needed." As they walked back to their common room, Aaron couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. The events of the past night had changed everything, and he knew that his life at Hogwarts would never be the same again. Aaron recounted his plan and everything that happened under the trapdoor to Harry and the others. He was shrewd, able to judge the situation wisely, protect himself, and secure victory. At the same time, he demonstrated a strong sense of responsibility. "You're a perfect Slytherin," Dumbledore remarked. "No wonder Voldemort takes such a fancy to you." "Actually, it's not that exaggerated," Aaron replied modestly. "It's true, Aaron. Even I have to admit that I was nowhere near as good as you when I was your age," Dumbledore praised. Then he turned his attention to Abe and was stunned by what he saw. Abe was staring at Fawkes, the phoenix, perched on the golden branch, with wide eyes and drool slipping from the corner of his mouth. This time, Dumbledore was certain that Abe was indeed interested in the phoenix. But wasn't this too exaggerated? Did he actually want to eat a phoenix? How much had he drunk? Chapter 93. "Aaron, is it a dragon?" Hagrid asked expectantly. "Aaron, is it a dragon?" Although Abe didn't resemble a typical dragon, Hagrid's experience with magical creatures gave him a certain intuition. Aaron hesitated for a moment before reluctantly nodding. "Yes, it's a dragon, a special one. It's not a mutation or a hybrid. If I have to describe it, my family's Abe is unique among dragons and the most noble of them all." 4 pairs of curious and surprised eyes turned to Abe, making Aaron feel a bit uneasy. He subconsciously hugged his pet tighter. "Don't be nervous, Aaron," Dumbledore said with a reassuring laugh. "We won't harm it. After all, it performed admirably last night and played a decisive role. Without it, Professors Snape and McGonagall might have suffered more than just minor injuries. Hogwarts can't afford to lose 2 professors, let alone 2 heads of houses. So, it deserves a lot of credit." "Thank you for the compliment," Aaron replied. "But we must balance merits and demerits," Dumbledore continued, his tone shifting to a more serious one. "While you defended Hogwarts and prevented a potential catastrophe, it's a fact that you brought a magical creature to the school. Therefore, you must accept some punishment. I have a fair idea. If the merits and demerits are balanced, you can keep it, but it cannot appear in school from next semester. What do you think?" Aaron frowned, sensing deeper implications in Dumbledore's words. "Professor, how is my credit calculated?" Dumbledore crossed his fingers and placed his hands on the desk, adopting a serious demeanor. "The credit is reflected in the house points. Harry, Hermione, and Ron performed well last night, and I will reward them. You too will receive a greater reward because you deserve it." Oh! Aaron suddenly realized that Dumbledore was referring to the House Cup. Gryffindor was currently second from the bottom, slightly above Hufflepuff, while Slytherin's victory seemed assured. However, if Gryffindor's points surged due to a significant event, they could potentially close the gap, even surpassing the 150 points deducted from Harry and his friends. Unless Slytherin also increased their points, it wasn't impossible for Gryffindor to overtake them. But why would Dumbledore do this? Could it be that Slytherin's 6 consecutive House Cup wins were too much for the old Gryffindor wizard to bear? This seemed unlikely. The House Cup was an honor, but if it weren't for system tasks, Aaron wouldn't care about this seemingly meaningless accolade. Dumbledore, the greatest white wizard of the century, surely had more significant concerns. A flash of insight struck Aaron. Dumbledore's actions were indeed for Gryffindor, more specifically for the 3 Gryffindor students, and even more precisely for Harry Potter. Using the House Cup's honor could greatly encourage Harry, boosting his confidence, especially after defeating Slytherin, who had won the cup for 6 consecutive years. It was a symbolic victory. Slytherin, favored by the Dark Lord, versus Harry Potter, favored by the White Lord. "Okay, I understand now," Aaron said, rubbing his temples. He then spoke in a solemn tone. "But I'm sorry, I don't want to give up this house cup yet." Dumbledore was momentarily taken aback, not expecting Aaron to see through his intentions. Snape frowned slightly, realizing Dumbledore's purpose. While Snape wasn't particularly interested in the house cup, he did relish the idea of defeating Gryffindor and Harry Potter. If Gryffindor managed to surpass Slytherin because of Harry and his friends, it would dampen Snape's spirits for the summer. Professor McGonagall, on the other hand, felt as if a great opportunity had fallen into her lap. Aaron didn't agree, but it was only temporary. Unless he could convince Dumbledore that he was right in keeping the fantastic animal, which seemed impossible. "Let's talk about my fault, Professor Dumbledore," Aaron said meaningfully, glancing at Fawkes perched on a golden branch. "If it's wrong to raise a magical animal, it seems that other than me, Hogwarts also has a magical animal. Principal Dumbledore, you can't be so double-standard." "I am the principal," Dumbledore replied. "Can the headmaster be more noble than the students? Or does the headmaster not have to abide by Hogwarts rules and regulations?" Aaron asked. "And I remember that the school rules don't seem to say that magical animals are not allowed, right?" "No," Dumbledore said solemnly, "but dangerous animals are not allowed, such as dragons or thunderbirds. They can cause a lot of damage just by sneezing. There are too many people in the school, and most of them are not strong enough. What if something happens? Our authoritative Hagrid may have a better say in this regard." He raised an acromantula, and it turned out that he was severely punished. Hagrid lowered his head slightly and whispered in frustration, "Aragog is innocent. It has nothing to do with that so-called Chamber of Secrets. But you can't deny its dangers, its ferocious nature, and its instinct to eat people. Even if it listens to you, Hagrid, you can't guarantee it won't change its taste one day and have a tooth-fighting ceremony or something." Well, I can guarantee that my Abe is safe," Aaron said. "Unfortunately," Dumbledore shook his head. "Hagrid also thought so at the beginning, but this kind of guarantee without any basis is not convincing at all. And a safe magical animal wouldn't suddenly grow so big, let alone attack a dark wizard who could send the wizarding world into a panic. Aaron, your pet is more powerful and dangerous than you think. Professor, with all due respect, if Abe is what you say, what about your Fawkes? The phoenix is a powerful magical creature. Many wizards who have seen dragons may not have seen a phoenix." "Yes," Dumbledore nodded. "The phoenix is very powerful. I don't deny it. But the reason why I can keep it is because I tamed it. It listens to me and won't hurt others. Many people can prove this point. Sir Merlin, the Ministry of Magic, and the International Confederation of Wizards can all vouch for me. They all believe that I have this strength. That means that as long as someone can vouch for me, I can keep Abe?" Aaron asked meaningfully. "You can say that, but the guarantor should not be too casual and needs to have sufficient authority. Don't mention it if it's your parents. Their status may be very noble, but they need to avoid suspicion in this matter." Aaron let out a long sigh. He was very thankful that he had made adequate preparations before coming to school. Otherwise, he would have been caught off guard. Who would have thought that the majestic White Demon King would be as narrow-minded as the Dark Lord, bullying a 12-year-old student in a different way to achieve his own goals? If it was something else, Aaron might have tolerated it. But the House Cup was related to his mission and was the first pot of gold on his growth path, so it could not be let go. "How are you thinking?" Dumbledore asked, perhaps feeling a little embarrassed. "Of course, as long as you can get enough guarantees during the holidays, you can also raise it at school. But this semester is not good. It's fine if you don't find it, but since we found it, we can't turn a blind eye. Please forgive me." Aaron thought to himself, "You have used your power for personal gain, so how can you let others understand? Forget it, Gaius, let it be." Snape pretended to be indifferent. "It's just the House Cup. Just bring it back next school year." "No," Aaron said righteously. Although I'm not interested in the house cup, if it's mine, it must be mine, and no one can take it away. But, wait a minute. Aaron interrupted him and pulled out a piece of yellow paper from his pocket. This is my guarantee, he said confidently. Snape was taken aback for a moment. He took the yellow paper and examined it closely. After a few glances, his hands trembled slightly. He looked up at Aaron in surprise and asked in disbelief, "Is this true?" "Of course it's true. Does anyone in the wizarding world dare to use their names as jokes?" Aaron replied. "It's hard to say." Snape breathed a sigh of relief. "After all, I only recognize half of the names on this guarantee letter, and I haven't heard of the rest. But even relying on just this half, you can present it in a fair manner. It's the first time I've seen someone go to such lengths for a magical animal. It's incredible." Chapter 94. The Influence Behind the Bond. Dumbledore's expression grew serious. He knew Snape well and trusted that he would never exaggerate, which meant that the information on this yellow paper was indeed significant. "May I have a look?" Professor McGonagall asked as she approached, her curiosity piqued. Professor Snape glanced at Aaron, who nodded in agreement, and then handed over the yellow paper. Professor McGonagall examined it carefully. Her expression shifted from relaxed to serious, and then to puzzled. "Why didn't you bring this out earlier?" she asked. Aaron shrugged and stroked the baby dragon in his arms helplessly. "Professor Snape once taught me that family resources and individual efforts should be kept separate. Although this principle doesn't entirely apply to me, I don't want to rely too much on my family as I grow up. There's no challenge in achieving things too easily. That's why I chose to come to Hogwarts instead of other wizarding schools. Since your family has prepared this letter of guarantee, then," McGonagall began. "Professor, you should understand whether it's necessary or not. Abe is a unique creature in the magical world. If its identity is revealed, it would cause a huge sensation. The Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures would come to investigate, and countless enthusiasts like Rubus Hagrid would flock to see it. Additionally, a large number of reporters would swarm in, eager to increase their newspaper sales with such a sensational story. While these are troublesome, they are manageable. However, who can guarantee that there won't be some greedy individuals looking to exploit it for profit? That's why I want to keep it hidden, to ensure its safety." Professor McGonagall pursed her lips, silently weighing Abe's value in her mind. She sighed and said, "Your approach is right." "Thank you for your understanding, Professor," Aaron replied. Professor McGonagall placed the yellow paper on Dumbledore's desk. "Headmaster, you'd better take a closer look. It's unbelievable, but I think the effectiveness of this guarantee is quite significant." Dumbledore nodded, put on his glasses, and examined the paper seriously. One page, dozens of names. He spent a full 5 minutes reading it, but his heart was far from calm. He recognized almost all the names on the list. Former ministers of the Ministry of Magic, the head of the Order of Merlin, and several elders of the Magical Council had all signed it. These individuals were highly respected, and Dumbledore himself would treat them with courtesy. Together, they had the power to bring about a revolution in the wizarding world. Moreover, the names of his old friend, Nicholas Flamel, and his wife were on the list, along with several well-known wizards who had made significant achievements in various fields. The strength and influence represented by these names were immense. Dumbledore realized that he wouldn't even be qualified to discuss seniority in front of these people. To top it off, the paper also bore the imprint of a vampire royal family and the logo of a werewolf tribe leader. This was more than just a guarantee. It was a testament to the influence of a hidden family, uniting both black and white factions. In the past, Dumbledore had thought that these families were only slightly stronger than pure-blood families, worthy of attention, but not too much. After all, they all had long histories, and the differences were minor. Of course, the Malfoys and the Weasleys were exceptions, representing two extremes, one rich and the other poor. Aaron had always believed that solving the problem of food and clothing would be enough. But now he realized how wrong he was. The influence of the Hermit family exceeded his imagination, and Aaron wasn't even the head of the family yet. The list he had seen was just a glimpse into their vast network. If the other 3 families were similar, it was no exaggeration to say that if these 4 families united, they could change the entire magical world at any time. Voldemort. He needed struggle, manpower, resources, and strategies to rule the wizarding world. But for these families, it seemed as simple as raising an arm and calling. A drop of cold sweat formed on Dumbledore's forehead. He couldn't remember the last time he had been this nervous. He had once thought Aaron was a worthy Slytherin, similar to the former Voldemort, but now he had to reevaluate Aaron's value and influence. If this child wasn't guided well, and if he brought his hidden family back into the open, the magical world could face a significant upheaval. "Professor, have you finished reading?" Aaron's voice suddenly brought Dumbledore back to reality. "Yes, it's over," Dumbledore replied, handing the yellow paper back with a smile. No problem at all. You can continue raising Abe, but try to keep a low profile. I really didn't expect your family to know so many people. It almost scared me, an old man." "It's all about the ways of the world," Aaron said with a touch of emotion. "The people on that list are all friends of my family's elders. They have nothing to do with me." "Professor, with this letter of guarantee, my fault should be cleared, right?" "Of course," Dumbledore nodded. "Maybe I should congratulate you in advance, and congratulations to Slytherin for winning this year's House Cup." "Thank you. I'll be going now," Aaron said, not bothering to pay further attention to Dumbledore as he walked towards the door. Snape gave Dumbledore a complicated look, hesitated for a moment, and then followed Aaron out. A few minutes later, Aaron looked at Snape, puzzled. "Professor, there's no need for you to escort me. We've almost reached the common room." "As the head of the house, I think it's appropriate to talk to my students," Snape said flatly. "Although this isn't my obligation, it has nothing to do with me, but I still think it's necessary to remind you that no matter when and where, it's always good to keep something in reserve." Aaron stopped in his tracks and said playfully, "You mean I shouldn't have shown my guarantee letter?" Snape didn't refute, but nodded seriously. "You're smart enough to understand what that bond means. You can wait until next semester to prepare yourself a formal dragon license, the kind approved by the Ministry of Magic's Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. It shouldn't be too difficult for you. With only a few days left before the holiday, you didn't need to take it out. It seems a bit unworthy for the House Cup." "Of course, the House Cup isn't worth it, but the mission reward is," Aaron thought to himself, though his expression remained calm. "Professor, I admit that what you said makes sense, but that guarantee was meant to be used at this time, and it would keep some people secret. Also, I don't want to report to the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures. That would put it in the Ministry of Magic's sights, and those politicians could do anything. To enhance their reputation, they wouldn't mind publicizing the emergence of a new species, and the disturbance led by the Ministry of Magic would definitely not be small." Snape remained silent. Furthermore, the House Cup must not be conceded. "That was a year of Slytherin's work," Aaron said righteously. "If we slack off and lose, we have nothing to say. But if, for some reason, the score is adjusted significantly. As Slytherin loses the honor they deserve, I believe many people will not be convinced. Moreover, with only a few days left before the holiday, Gryffindor's score suddenly reaching the top of the list seems like a deliberate attempt to play with Slytherin's mentality. This would only exacerbate the existing tension between the two houses. Protecting the deserved House Cup is also for the sake of the stability of Hogwarts." Snape froze on the spot when he heard that. What Aaron said made sense. This 12-year-old student's thinking was unusually mature, and he considered problems comprehensively. However, Snape couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It was as if everything had been calculated by Aaron, and others were unknowingly carrying out his plan. This feeling of being led by the nose was really unsettling. "Maybe you think a little more than me, the dean, but I still stick to my point of view," Snape said. "Of course, I understand this," Aaron smiled. "There must be a trump card, such as the resurrection potion in my hand. That letter of guarantee may seem very influential to you, and you might think it represents the personal connections of the Gaius family. It might remind you of many things you want to think about, which is somewhat exaggerated. What do you mean? Snape asked, a little puzzled. Because in my opinion, it's just a piece of paper, the kind that a gnat can buy a stack of, Aaron said indifferently. It can't be eaten, it can't be drunk, it can't improve one's strength, it can't be exchanged for any money, and it has no real value. It's something that can bluff people. Ha! Snape laughed at himself, his whole body relaxing considerably. I was overthinking. You must be the pride of Slytherin in the future. Chapter 95. As soon as Aaron entered the common room, Crabbe and Goyle approached him, blocking his path with their bulky frames. If you don't have anything important, don't block the way, Aaron said, exasperated. You two are so tall and big that it's easy to misunderstand your intentions when you suddenly appear in front of me. I might end up hitting you if I'm in a bad mood. The two immediately stepped aside, politely inviting Aaron to a sofa and handing him a plate of fruit. Aaron's eyes lit up, and he pocketed all the fruit except for one apple. If you have something to say, get to the point. I doubt you two came to me for no reason, Aaron said. The test results are out. I don't know why, but Dumbledore announced them early, Crabbe said. You got full marks in all subjects. The boss's grades are also very good. But he still lost, right? Aaron said, somewhat relieved. This result was as he expected. At least he didn't let his family down. Yes, Crabbe nodded. He is 12 points behind Granger and ranks just below her. Not only her, but Weasley and Potter's grades are also very high, which makes it hard for us to accept. Draco locked himself in his room and won't let us in. This is normal, but don't worry, he'll come out soon. Of course, we believe in him, Goyle said, somewhat embarrassed. But it's been more than 10 hours, and he hasn't come out yet. He hasn't even eaten lunch. We don't know how to comfort him. Fortunately, you're back. So you want me to persuade him? Yes, you have the best relationship with him. Only you can persuade him, Crabbe said. At least get him to open the door. We don't want to sleep on the sofa in the lounge tonight. Aaron's mouth twitched. Malfoy didn't know if he was lucky or unlucky to have such followers. For these two, the quality of their sleep seemed more important. Okay, leave it to me, Aaron said. He picked up the plate of fruit and walked to Draco's dormitory, knocking lightly on the door. I said, don't bother me. Draco's voice came from inside, sounding particularly angry. It's me, Aaron replied. After a few seconds, the door opened. When Draco saw Aaron, the gloom on his face dissipated a lot, soon replaced by joy. I heard someone was sulking because of poor academic performance, so I came to check on you, Aaron said. Who told you, Crabbe or Goyle, or both? Draco asked. Of course both, Aaron said, exasperated. They came to me as soon as I got back, wanting me to comfort you. Comfort? Draco stood up, a bit annoyed. Do they think I'm that fragile? I don't need consolation. It's just a big deal, and it's not like I can't afford to lose. At worst, I'll be more polite when I see her in the future. Then why did you lock yourself in the room? Aaron asked. Draco's expression changed, and he hesitated. I just need to think about how to tell my dad. What can't you say? Your grades are still very good. He should be proud of you. That's what I thought, but I lost to Granger, a Muggle-born wizard. He always expresses his admiration for me in his letters. If he finds out, he might be disappointed. Is that why you locked yourself in the room? Aaron rolled his eyes. How boring are you? This is completely groundless worry. Lucius Malfoy wouldn't lose his temper with his precious son over a test result. But she's just one rank higher than me, if my father asks. No buts, Aaron interrupted. Think about it from another angle. You at least defeated Harry Potter and your family's nemesis, Weasley. Based on these 2 points alone, he couldn't fault you, and as far as I know, your father didn't take such a test in school. He didn't do well in exams himself, so why should he judge you? Draco froze for a moment. Are you sure? Very sure. A certain professor told me, Aaron said, speaking confidently, though he had no idea if it was true. Lucius's grades. But he was sure that Lucius Malfoy was no better than his son, who had been working hard all year. Draco breathed a sigh of relief. He cared very much about his father's opinion, and now it seemed that he was the best. Aaron, did you really go to the underground classroom with Harry Potter and the others the night before, defeat Professor Quirrell, and destroy his conspiracy? Is this real? Draco asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. It's true. Otherwise, the two professors and I wouldn't have spent a day in the infirmary, Aaron replied. Can you be more specific? Draco rubbed his hands excitedly, clearly very interested in the matter. How should I say it? We split up and happened to meet at the trapdoor, Aaron began, giving Draco a brief description of the events, though he omitted certain details. He carefully left out Voldemort's involvement, as it was not appropriate for Draco to know that the Dark Lord was alive and plotting a comeback. That's too exciting, but also too dangerous, Draco said, slapping the bedsheet in frustration. It's all Harry's fault. It would have been much safer according to your plan, and they dragged you into it, even getting you hurt. It's all over now. At least the result was good, Aaron said, trying to calm Draco down. You're just too generous, Draco retorted angrily. If they hadn't insisted on going their own way, you wouldn't have been in a coma for so long. And Hagrid, that half-blood giant, is an idiot. It's bad enough that the secret was leaked, but he didn't even realize how unreasonable it was. Aaron sighed, feeling a mix of frustration and understanding. On the second night, all the teachers and students of the school gathered in the Great Hall for the year-end banquet. Rows of green flags representing Slytherin House hung from the ceiling, celebrating their 7th consecutive House Cup win. The hall was extremely noisy, and the tables were laden with exquisite food, but no one could eat until the headmaster announced the start of the banquet. Aaron held back Bay, who was drooling, fearing it would pounce on the table to eat. Ding, ding, ding. A crisp knocking sound echoed through the hall, and the noise quickly subsided. Professor McGonagall put down the golden spoon in her hand, and Dumbledore, who was sitting next to her, stood up and faced all the students. Another year has passed, and the whole summer vacation awaits you. You must be impatient, but before we can indulge in these delicious dishes, we have to award the House Cup, Dumbledore said excitedly. We have already counted the scores. The specific scores of each house are as follows. In 4th place, Gryffindor, with 323 points. In 3rd place, Hufflepuff, with 352 points. In 2nd place, Ravenclaw, with 437 points. And topping the list is Slytherin House, with a total of 493 points. As his voice fell, deafening cheers erupted from the Slytherin table, but the faces of the students from the other 3 houses were not very happy. They applauded symbolically, but the sound of their applause was drowned out by the Slytherin cheers. Slytherin was indeed excellent, but their popularity was not very high, likely due to their many consecutive championships. Anyone who had been suppressed for 7 years, probably wouldn't be in a good mood. At the teacher's table, Snape applauded quickly. Professor Sprout and Professor Flitwick were not as competitive, although it was a pity. A loss was a loss. But Professor McGonagall was so sad that she didn't even bother to hide it. Sadness and disappointment were almost written on her face. Very well, Slytherin, very well, said Dumbledore. But recent events must also be taken into account. I still have some final points to award. The scene fell silent instantly, and the smiles of the Slytherins, who had already won the championship, gradually faded away, while the other students looked expectant. An unexpected turn of events at this moment meant there were whispers that the Academy Cup standings might change. Dumbledore, the headmaster, had the authority to award a significant number of points, and if he chose to add enough to a particular house, such as Ravenclaw, which was currently in 2nd place, it could potentially overtake Slytherin. However, Professor McGonagall, who was privy to the truth, did not share this optimism. This game had only made Gryffindor's loss less humiliating, but it still couldn't challenge Slytherin's championship. Miss Hermione Granger, Dumbledore announced with a smile, looking at a young witch seated at the Gryffindor table. For her calm and clever use of ingenuity in the face of danger, I award 50 points. Hermione's lips pursed, but she couldn't hide the smile spreading across her face. The Gryffindors at the same table erupted into loud cheers. With these 50 points, they had moved up to 3rd place, no longer at the bottom. The second award goes to Mr. Ron Weasley, Dumbledore continued. He has demonstrated exceptional chess skills, the best Hogwarts has seen in 100 years. For this, I award 50 points. The cheers grew louder. Ron was stunned by the unexpected reward, while his older brothers proudly boasted to others that Ron was their youngest sibling. The third award goes to Harry Potter, Dumbledore said, his voice carrying through the hall. For his daring and extraordinary courage, I award Gryffindor House 60 points. As his words echoed, the entire auditorium erupted into a sea of cheers. Except for Slytherin, the other three houses began to shout in support of Gryffindor. Now, they were only 10 points away from dethroning Slytherin from the championship. Almost everyone was on the edge of their seats, looking at their headmaster with hopeful eyes, wishing for those extra points that could change everything. Chapter 96, Slytherin's 7 consecutive championships. What's there to be proud of? Draco said with a look of resentment. If it wasn't for Aaron's timely intervention, Weasley might not even be alive right now. You can't say that, Aaron disagreed. I just pushed Ron at the right time. Without him, we wouldn't have been able to break through that giant chessboard. Draco snorted coldly, clearly dissatisfied with Aaron's modesty. Gryffindor now has 483 points, second place. But so what? The three of them have already finished adding points, so they can't add any more. No one will be convinced. Who knows? Aaron smiled helplessly. From his dealings with Dumbledore, it was clear that the headmaster's lower limit was not that high. But the problem was, this old man could always stand firm in his character, skillfully navigating within the rules so that no one could find any faults. The fourth item, Dumbledore spoke again, and the entire auditorium fell silent. There are many types of courage. It takes courage to uphold principles against enemies, and it takes courage to stand up for resistance. But it takes even more courage to uphold principles with friends. I award 10 points to Neville Longbottom. Violent cheers echoed in the auditorium. Everyone in Gryffindor was elated, except for Neville Longbottom himself, who was in a daze, unable to recover from the surprise. He was not very smart, always hesitant in his actions, and his academic performance was mediocre. He was the kind of person who blended into the crowd. After the whole school year, he hadn't added a single point to his house, but now he was being recognized at the year-end dinner. So now there is a small problem. Gryffindor and Slytherin have the same score, but there is only one house cup, Dumbledore said loudly, suppressing the noisy voices in the auditorium. He then looked at the Slytherin table and gave Aaron a meaningful smile. The Gryffindor students also realized something, and their smiles became slightly restrained. Although their faces were not as grim as before, they were not very happy. Harry, Hermione, and Ron exchanged wry smiles, almost forgetting about this, but turned around to congratulate Aaron. Although Aaron was a Slytherin, he was not as rebellious as other Slytherins and had helped them a lot. Without him, that night would have been a close call. Aaron had hoped to win the House Cup, but Slytherin had held on to it tightly, making him feel somewhat uncomfortable. I believe everyone has guessed what I'm going to say, Dumbledore continued. Yes, the last item, Aaron Gaius. He showed amazing resourcefulness, reached out to his friends in distress, and found the right way out in the fog with wisdom and calmness. Of course, his ability to plan ahead is also commendable, and he made extremely thorough preparations before taking risks. I plan to reward him with 100 points for this excellent Slytherin. Putting it all together, if our calculations are correct, Slytherin wins the House Cup. Slytherin, who had been suppressed for 4 rounds, finally couldn't restrain their emotions. They cheered loudly, firmly overshadowing the other 3 houses with their sheer enthusiasm. 6 consecutive championships had turned into 7 consecutive championships, which was even more exciting. Draco stood up and gave Aaron a hug, showing everyone their friendship. The Slytherin prefect smiled and gave him an encouraging look. Even a few seniors gave him approving winks, which made Aaron feel a bit unnatural, as their looks were quite intense. In the 3rd week of June, Hogwarts officially closed. Aaron packed his bags and put them in the trunk. Abe also put on a new set of clothes and carried his belongings. Draco walked into Aaron's dormitory, carrying a small backpack and the school's notice. The school warns students not to use magic during the holidays. Really, don't they know that we are wizards? He complained. Stop whining, Aaron replied. This rule is set by the Ministry of Magic, not the school. Draco's expression softened. Aaron, you must come to my house during the vacation. Our family would be delighted to have you. Aaron hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to respond. I'm just not sure I have the time, he finally said. Don't be ridiculous, Draco retorted. We're only 12 years old. We don't have jobs at the Ministry of Magic, so why wouldn't you have time? Aaron rolled his eyes. No matter how precocious you are, you won't be taking over family responsibilities at 12. Besides, my parents are only in their early 30s. They won't burden me with such responsibilities yet. Then why don't you have time? Draco asked, puzzled. Aaron pursed his lips, feeling awkward. He didn't want to admit it was just a gut feeling. I'll come if I have time, he said finally. That's more like it, Draco said, satisfied. Outside the station, Aaron noticed Hagrid sending Harry onto the train. Hagrid looked in their direction, and Aaron quickly lowered his head, trying to hide Abe behind his suitcase. He hoped Hagrid wouldn't notice him, but as he approached the car door, he found himself under a large black shadow. Looking up, he saw Hagrid's familiar face smiling down at him. Aaron sighed, realizing he couldn't avoid Hagrid. It's unreasonable not to say hello to acquaintances, Hagrid said, pretending to be stern while his eyes darted around, searching for something. Don't look for it, it's here, Aaron said, pulling Abe out. Hagrid's eyes lit up with excitement. He wanted to take a closer look but restrained himself. Envy? Hagrid asked, nodding vigorously, his beard trembling. If it weren't for the crowd at the station, he might have shouted in excitement. Aaron was the only one in the magical world raising a special dragon, and Hagrid couldn't help but be envious. Hagrid had many magical animals, but they couldn't stay with him for long. Once they grew too big, they had to be hidden in the Forbidden Forest or sent elsewhere. The only one who had stayed with him over the years was Fang, his Neapolitan Mastiff. The little guy is still so cute. Will I see him next term? Hagrid asked. If there are no accidents, it should be fine, Aaron replied lightly. But I think he doesn't want to see you. Abe turned his face away, not giving Hagrid a good look. Don't be so heartless. I apologize again for what I did, Hagrid said, looking aggrieved. He then took out a wrapped roast chicken from his pocket. This is my sincerity. I got it from the kitchen, and it's still warm. Abe opened one eye, glanced at the chicken, and then looked at Aaron, barely restraining a growl. Humph. Don't be fooled by such a small trick. You use this trick to stun Abe, Aaron said disdainfully. This kind of thing will never happen again, Hagrid promised with a mischievous smile. Besides, we didn't think it was a dragon at the time. Aaron pouted, but still took the roast chicken and stuffed it into Abe's backpack. The train ride would be long, and there wouldn't be such food available on board. We've received your sincerity. See you next semester, Aaron said, preparing to board the train. But just as he was about to step on, he was stopped. Hagrid asked shyly, Wait, can I touch it? Aaron suddenly felt that the roast chicken in his hand had lost its appeal, and he was short of hands. But everything was in his hands, and it was impossible to return it. Sorry, I can't agree to this request yet, Aaron directly refused. Hagrid wanted to try again, but Aaron quickly got into the car door, preventing him from succeeding. This runs fast enough. Aaron shrugged, handed the box to a conductor, and boarded the train. He passed several carriages in a row, but they were all full, with not a single empty seat. When he opened the door of the next carriage, the corner of his mouth twitched. They were all acquaintances, but they were just 3 Gryffindors. What a coincidence! There should be vacant seats here, right? Aaron asked. Yes, of course, Harry said immediately, and Hermione happily moved aside to make room. Chapter 97. The train moved slowly, and the scenery outside the window changed rapidly. Aaron placed Abe on the table and eagerly took out the roast chicken from his bag. He tore off a chicken leg for himself and began eating. Still such an appetite, Ron remarked, smelling the aroma and swallowing hard. He resisted the urge to snatch food from the beast's mouth, remembering the scene after Abe's transformation. With his small frame, he would likely be knocked out if he tried. Isn't it normal for a dragon to have a bigger appetite? Aaron said matter-of-factly. He had no such worries and tore off the other chicken leg, putting it in his mouth. One thing was certain, the food at Hogwarts was still very good. Is it really a dragon? Hermione raised her eyebrows, wanting to touch it but restraining herself halfway. That's right, it's a dragon that has never appeared in the magical world. Unique, the only one of its kind. That's pretty cool, Ron exclaimed. If Charlie found out, he'd drop all his work and come back. Don't do anything stupid, Harry warned Ron, who shrugged resentfully. At this point, even if we want to keep it a secret, we can't for long. The professors at the school know, so Dumbledore must know too. Don't worry, they will keep it a secret, Aaron said calmly. I successfully persuaded Dumbledore that I can raise it even at school. That's great, that Hermione said, smiling. It will be much easier for you in the future, and for us too. By the way, Aaron, what are your plans for the holidays? Harry asked. Me? I guess I'll go back to Diagon Alley and continue running my small shop. I haven't been back for almost a year, and I don't know how the business is doing, but it shouldn't be much worse. For me, not losing money is making money. The three of them looked at each other, unable to react. In their perception, it was impossible for the Ministry of Magic to allow a child to open a shop in Diagon Alley. Did your family help set it up? Hermione asked. Of course. My uncle set up the shop for me when I was 9 years old. It's not very big, but it has all the necessary procedures and is definitely a legal business. 9 years old? Ron's mouth twitched. When he was 9, he was still playing with his older brothers. That's too early to be self-reliant. It's an exaggeration, Harry said with a smirk. The first 11 years of his life were filled with being bullied by Dudley and his friends. It was simply a bitter history. The Gaius beverage store isn't very famous, but it earns some pocket money, Aaron said with some pride. I'm always there. If you want to find me, you can go there. If I'm away, you can leave me a message, and I'll get back to you the next day. Of course, if you want to visit my house, you're very welcome. I might not be able to go, Harry said, shaking his head with a wry smile. Holidays mean home for you, but not for me at all. The three of them gave Harry a look mixed with sympathy, but they didn't know how to comfort him. His parents had died when he was 1 year old, and he was fostered by his uncle's family, who didn't care for him. They only ensured he wouldn't freeze or starve to death. If he could stay at school, Harry would definitely choose to stay, but he couldn't, which was why he was on the train now. Why don't you come to my house? Ron suggested. I'll send an owl with a letter to you. It's quite normal to visit a classmate's house during the holidays. If you come to my house every 3 days, they shouldn't stop you. Harry's eyes lit up. Although he knew his uncle and aunt might stop him because they didn't want to see him happy, it was also possible they wouldn't stop him because they didn't like seeing him at all. Although the chance of letting him go out was slim, it wasn't impossible. There was still some hope. The train traveled for a long time, and Aaron took advantage of this time to collect the rewards for his 3 missions. Help Slytherin get the Academy Cup, reward 500 magic points. Recognized by at least 3 professors, reward 500 magic points. Kill Voldemort's remnant soul, reward 1,000 magic points. That's how he accumulated 2,000 magic points. Combined with what he had saved, he had finally broken through the 2,000 mark. This sudden windfall left him feeling a bit overwhelmed, but soon he was ecstatic. With this wealth, he could quickly ascend to the level of a wizard. Abe could evolve again, and this time he would awaken his talent skills. Additionally, he could afford some appropriate expenditures. As long as it wasn't too expensive, he could place an order without hesitation. When the train stopped at platform 9 3/4, Aaron opened his eyes to the sound of the long whistle. Have we arrived? He asked. Harry nodded. Yeah. Do you feel a little sore in your shoulders? Aaron was puzzled for a moment, but then he noticed Hermione leaning on his shoulder, sleeping soundly. When did this happen? He asked. 2 hours ago, Harry replied with a playful smile. You both fell asleep, and I didn't have the heart to wake you. Aaron gently pulled his shoulder away, trying not to wake Hermione. I admit it would be a bit embarrassing to wake up like this, but it's better than you. Harry's expression changed as he turned to see Ron lying on his shoulder, feeling a bit heartbroken. At that moment, an old guard knocked on the carriage door, waking the remaining 2. Children, it's time to get out of the carriage. Take your suitcases and line up. We need to exit the platform in batches to avoid drawing attention from muggles. After queuing for a while, it was finally their turn. As soon as Aaron stepped off the platform, he saw Gin's greeting him with a smile. I've been waiting for half an hour, young master. You should hurry up next time. You shouldn't have told me that, Aaron replied, rolling his eyes and handing his suitcase to the butler. Jins took it with a smile, then glanced at Abe in Aaron's arms and frowned slightly. Has Abe gained weight? It's not important, Aaron said, while Abe nodded vigorously. It had a big appetite, and there was nothing it could do about it. Jins walked up to Aaron, picked up Abe, and weighed it carefully. It has indeed gained weight, about 1 kilogram. It seems I need to rearrange its diet when we get back. Abe's face fell, filled with unhappiness. It knew Jins would likely cut a significant portion of meat from its diet or replace it with vegetables. Thinking of this, Abe gave Aaron a pitiful look. Is this really necessary? Aaron asked with a sneer. I listened to my master, but I must remind you, if you keep indulging it, soon it will be too heavy for you to carry. Aaron thought for a moment. I suppose you're right. Jin smiled with satisfaction. Master, it's time for us to go back. The owner and wife will also be back today. My parents are at home. They're on the train and should arrive before us. They've mentioned more than once how much they miss their precious son. Aaron only half believed this, as even before he went to school, their family reunions were rare. I need to say goodbye to my friends first. Of course. Aaron walked up to Draco, who was standing beside a middle-aged man with a grim face, pale blonde hair, and blue-gray eyes, likely his father. Seeing Aaron approach, a smile appeared on Draco's face. On Lucius's pale face, a hint of curiosity flickered. You are Aaron, right? Draco has written to me more than once about the good friend he has made. His excellent grades are in part thanks to your help. Thank you very much. You're being too kind. It's what friends do for each other, Aaron replied, his tone confident and composed. You are always welcome at Malfoy Manor, Lucius offered. If I have the time, I will definitely visit, Aaron assured him. Suddenly, a high-pitched voice pierced the air. Harry Potter! Lucius frowned slightly at the interruption. Is that a Weasley? Draco asked, noticing the little red-haired girl trailing behind Mrs. Weasley. I heard they have a youngest sister. Yes, I saw her at the station last year, Aaron confirmed. We'll probably see her at this year's freshman orientation ceremony. That's really unfortunate, Draco remarked, shaking his head. Aaron's mouth twitched, but he chose to remain silent. The long-standing feud between the Malfoys and the Weasleys was well known, and Draco's attitude was hardly surprising. Chapter 98. Is that the friend you made, Master? Jins asked, looking at Draco's figure. If I remember correctly, he's a Malfoy. Is there a problem? Aaron inquired. Jins hesitated for a few seconds. One thing I need to remind you, young master, is that the Malfoys are representatives of pure-blood families. They despise half-bloods and muggle-born wizards. As far as I know, Lucius had a certain relationship with the Dark Lord before, and no one knows if he has broken contact. I know, but Lucius is Lucius, and Draco is Draco. I have a sense of proportion in making friends, and I don't misjudge people. Then there's no problem, Jins said with a smile. The young master won't only make this one friend, will he? How is that possible? He and I were on good terms in Slytherin, Aaron replied, curling his lips. He then nodded at Harry and the others. Those are my friends from Gryffindor. The Weasley family and Harry Potter? Jins raised his eyebrows. The red hair and the scar on Harry's forehead were unmistakable. Young master's communication skills are really impressive. That's a must, Aaron said confidently. At that moment, a chubby figure came into view. In terms of width, even Hagrid might not be able to match him. The figure kept staring at Harry with angry eyes, and there was a thin woman and a fat man standing behind him. It seems Harry Potter's family environment isn't very good, and his family doesn't seem to want to see him, Jins observed. This is still in public. It's embarrassing that a celebrity in the wizarding world grew up in such an environment. But he was lucky. From the moment he entered Hogwarts, his fate changed, and it will continue to change in the future. But before that, he still has to live this kind of life under the fence. On this point, I agree with you, Aaron said. That evening, Aaron returned home. The house elf skillfully moved his suitcase to his bedroom. Abe, his pet, also took off its outer clothes and flapped its wings cheerfully in the castle hall. It could act so recklessly at home, but Aaron would throw it back unceremoniously if it didn't behave outside. When Vico and Lasana saw their son return, they were overjoyed and gave him a hug. "You've grown a lot taller," Lasana said, looking at Aaron, who was now 1.6 meters tall, with relief in her eyes. "How do you feel at school?" Vico coughed. "If you regret it, I'll arrange for you to transfer to another school immediately." "No need," Aaron said with a sneer. "Dad, I'm doing quite well in Slytherin." "Really?" Vico said angrily. "Do you know why we came back? On one hand, we missed you, and on the other, your principal wrote me a letter. Dumbledore praised you a lot. Your performance is really extraordinary. But if you dare to plot against Voldemort, how many lives do you think you have?" "That's right." Lysana's expression became serious. "We know you won't do anything reckless, but this time it was really too risky. Moreover, Abe's identity was also exposed, and both the Black and White Demon Kings know of its existence. You've only been in school for 1 year, and you've already caused a lot of trouble." "That was an accident," Aaron said, smiling guiltily. He had already cursed Dumbledore in his heart. The old man dared to report him. It was likely that Dumbledore started writing letters right after Aaron left the principal's office. Otherwise, his parents wouldn't have come back at such a convenient time. "Dumbledore has already read the letter of guarantee. He is aware of our family's influence. I think he may find a way to pull us into the fight against Voldemort." "It's not a possibility. It's a certainty," Vico said firmly. "A white wizard who has lived for more than 100 years can't live that long without a heart. Voldemort is not dead. This is the consensus of wise people. A dark wizard who is infinitely close to the Holy Magister is not so easy to kill. It's a pity that his path is narrow, otherwise he could have gone further. Even so, he is quite dangerous. It's a big joke for such a person to die at the hands of a child." Dumbledore knew this too. He had 10 years to prepare, and I'm sure he did well. But he also lacked self-confidence. After all, Voldemort was a formidable opponent, equal in power to him, and had a large number of followers. It was only a matter of time before he made a comeback. At this time, a huge wizard family just happened to come into his sight, and he wouldn't believe it if he didn't have any ulterior motives. But he will find out later that his efforts to focus on our family are completely useless and self-defeating. The same goes for the Dark Lord. "So confident?" Aaron was a little surprised. He also had confidence in his family, but this confidence was based on his own potential. As long as he had time, he could gain the power to overturn the situation before Dumbledore completely pulled him into his plans. Taking a step back, when it was really a last resort, as long as a few large magic circles in the castle were activated, even a Holy Magister might not be able to attack. This was his confidence. It had nothing to do with him. He could still live a peaceful life with the door closed. Lucius was still a Death Eater before, but after Voldemort's downfall, he retreated with the help of the Malfoy family's financial resources and connections, and he flourished in chaos. The background of the Gaius family is stronger than that of the Malfoy family, so they won't be inferior to them. "Confidence is what it should be," Vico said with a calm smile. "Since the beginning of the magical age, there have been countless brilliant talents, and many of them were wizards more powerful than Dumbledore and Riddle. Many ambitious dark wizards have also thought about gaining the support of the hidden families, because compared to pure blood, our influence on the magic world is much greater. But without exception, they all gave up in the end. All 4 families have been approached, and the worst was the Grand Magister, and one of them was Hogwarts' Salazar Slytherin. But we were a little more unlucky. In a few centuries BC, a god of magic came to visit us. His attitude at that time was very tough, either submit or die, not to mention how arrogant." "And then?" Aaron asked impatiently. Guess. Hiss." Vico originally wanted to whet his son's appetite, but his wife pinched his arm the next moment, and he immediately took a breath. "The ancestors of our generation politely invited him into the castle for a cup of tea, and he left in despair, promising that he would never do similar stupid things again." "And then what?" "It's gone." Vico spread his hands naturally. "What else do you want to hear?" "Aaron, of course, it's the reason. With our family's defense system, it shouldn't be able to stop the fashion." "Want to know the reason?" Vico smiled meaningfully, and Lysana also looked at her son teasingly. When Aaron saw this, he knew it was over. In this family, as long as Gaius and his wife stood on a united front, he, the son, would not have any right to speak. And the reason is also very suitable. His age is flawed, and 12 years old is not suitable for touching family secrets. "Come and find me after dinner, and I can tell you part of the reason," Vico said suddenly. Aaron was stunned for a moment, surprised and confused. "Are you sure you want to tell me? Is it too early?" "It may be earlier in the other 3 families, but in our family, as long as the strength has reached, we are qualified to understand these, and we must understand these," Vico said and put his eyes on the ring on Aaron's hand. "As expected of my son, I was considered a genius when I was in school, but it was only when I was 14 that I stepped into the realm of a senior magician. It turns out that your son is better than you. That's something to be proud of." Lysana smiled, then waved to the ceiling and hugged Abe in her arms. "Son, has your pet gotten fat? The food at school is not as good as at home, but it can't hold up to a lot of it," Aaron replied. "It's time to lose weight," Lysana said, her tone firm. "Ma'am, don't worry. The recipe for losing weight is already being worked out. It will probably be ready by tomorrow morning," Jins replied with a reassuring smile. Abe immediately began to express his dissatisfaction. His 4 white claws kicked back and forth, and his wings flapped restlessly. "It's useless to be anxious. I won't be able to hold you if you don't lose weight," Lysana said, unfazed. However, seeing Abe's aggrieved eyes, she couldn't help but soften. "All right, I'll add a chicken leg tonight." Abe remained unmoved and continued to increase his cuteness. Just as Aaron was about to bring the food over, Lysana relented further. "In the future, the food will be improved every 3 days, but there really can't be more." Abe immediately calmed down, and Aaron could only sigh, realizing he was a step too late. At dinner time, Aaron was absent-minded, his thoughts occupied with curiosity about the family secrets. He glanced at his father across the table, wondering what mysteries lay hidden. The rest of the family ate in peace, savoring the rare occasion of being together. Only Abe was devouring his meal with gusto, his belly swelling as he ate, making tinkling sounds from time to time. No one minded. They all understood Abe's thoughts. This was a highly intelligent dragon. He knew very well that tonight was one of the few feasts he would enjoy during this holiday. Like humans, he would have to tighten his belt in the future. Chapter 99. How many secret rooms does our house have? After dinner, Aaron hugged Abe and followed closely behind his father and the housekeeper. He had walked this path many times, but it was the first time he felt so nervous. Vico stopped in front of a gate, turned around, and looked at his son meaningfully. "Are you ready? Tonight, you will learn the secret to the longevity of the Gaius family." Aaron nodded solemnly. He had been to the treasure house more than once or twice, and the items inside were very familiar to him. Although rare, they should not be considered a secret. "You may be wondering why I brought you here. In fact, any wizarding family with a certain heritage will have its own secret room, and our family is no exception." "It's hidden deep enough," Aaron said with emotion. "I've been around here so many times, but I never noticed anything. Of course you can't find it, because the important thing is never the treasure house, but the method." As Vico spoke, he took out a bunch of keys, all of the same style, but made from different materials. Aaron's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He also had a similar key, which was a birthday present from his grandfather. "My dear grandson, you have grown up too, so it's time for you to know the background of our family." He remembered this sentence clearly, and it had touched him deeply at the time. But now that he thought about it, it all seemed like a routine. The iron keys he had were incomparable to the ones in Vico's hands. These were obviously more exquisite, made of gold, silver, copper, wood, and a few other materials he couldn't identify. If a key corresponds to a secret room, then how many secret rooms are there in our house? It's a little more than you think. When your grandfather brought me here, my expression was exactly the same as yours. But I was 15 years old at the time, and much more able to bear it. "I won't talk nonsense anymore. Let me broaden your horizons today," Vico said proudly, then inserted a key into the lock. "Wait, master, it's not this one." When Jin saw the golden key being inserted into the keyhole, his face changed slightly, and he hurriedly reminded him, but it was already too late. Click! A dazzling golden light shot out from the crack of the door, almost blinding the three of them. The door opened, and Aaron walked in full of curiosity. That curiosity quickly turned into astonishment, and his pupils reflected the symbol of money. Ob's eyes were also wide open. He ran out of Aaron's arms and plunged into the room, unable to stop himself. This secret room was very large, and its internal structure was exactly the same as that of the treasure house. However, there was a large wooden box that couldn't be seen at a glance, and it was full of gold, silver, and jewelry. But the more visually impactful sight was the mountains of gold coins piled high, with gold treasures scattered everywhere. Oh my God! Aaron couldn't help swallowing. He knew that the Gaius family was wealthy, but he didn't expect it to be to this extent. He finally understood why djinns always had a look of indifference. Their home was practically built on a golden mountain. Aaron grabbed a handful of gold coins, and the heavy feeling gave him the idea of lying down. It was better to close the shop or something. This one room was enough for him to squander for more than 10 years. So, this is our family secret? Having more money than you can spend? Aaron turned around and looked at his father, still a little overwhelmed, but soon he found a reason for himself. Yes, it must be so. No matter who you are, no matter what you want to do, you can't do without money. If the assets of the Gaius family were placed hundreds of years ago, they would be enough to support a kingdom to launch a war that lasted for decades. Son. No, there's no need to explain. Aaron waved his hand. I understand the reason why money can make ghosts go round. Even the Dark Lord has to bow his head in front of wealth. Of such huge wealth. Not me. Needless to say, let me first accept the fact that the rich can rival the country. Just as Vico was about to explain, there was a clattering sound from the side. The white holy dragon was swimming in the pool of gold coins, having a great time. Dragons are naturally attracted to gold, and this one was no exception. For Abe, Aaron came first, food came second, and treasure was a close third. This place was heaven for him. Aaron rolled his eyes and walked over to yank the dragon out. Although a little speechless, he felt it was the natural behavior of a dragon, and didn't worry about it being sold in the future. Having seen this kind of wealth, unless someone could move Gringotts here, it really wouldn't impress him. Son, this is our family's treasury. It really lives up to the name. Is it the same for the other 3 families? I don't know. The 4 hermit families are united and help each other, but they also perform their duties. I really don't know about their financial resources, but even if it's not as good as ours, it shouldn't be much worse. Aaron thought the same thing. After thousands of years of accumulation, it might be a bit exaggerated to build a mine, but it was not unacceptable. Ahem, djinns coughed dryly. Master, should you get down to business? Yes, I almost forgot. Vico smiled awkwardly but politely. We came to the wrong place. We have to go to another secret room. This is just the treasury, and what follows is the real secret of the family. Aaron also became serious and more curious. It seemed that their family had something more important than this treasure. Vico led the way to the end of the vault. He stood there for a while, and the wall began to shake slowly. A huge amount of gold coins scattered to both sides, revealing an identical door with a familiar keyhole suddenly appearing in the center. Vico took out the bunch of keys, carefully selected the silver key, and inserted it into the lock. You won't make a mistake this time, will you? Certainly not. There was a creaking sound, and the inside of the door was pitch black, much deeper and more mysterious than the grandeur of the vault. Aaron and Abe looked back reluctantly, as if they were about to say goodbye to this treasure after one glance. Master, these will be yours from now on. Djinn shook his head with a smile. So don't be reluctant. Aaron stepped into the black secret room, and as soon as he entered, the door closed. Immediately afterward, rows of lights illuminated the darkness, and the things in this secret room made Aaron's eyes widen again. However, Abe obviously couldn't arouse any interest and arrogantly turned the dragon's face away. This secret room was relatively small, and there were no large wooden boxes in it, but only dozens of shelves filled with all kinds of cold weapons. Bows, swords, machetes, daggers, hammers, shields, and all kinds of armor were available. Moreover, these weapons were well maintained, and you could feel the sharp coldness just by getting close. These are antiques? You are right in saying that. Any one of these has a history of hundreds of years, Vico explained. It is a little early for you to be exposed to these at the age of 12, but it is not that there were no more geniuses than you before. About 700 years ago, there was a member of the family who entered this secret room when he was 10 years old. Does that make any difference? Of course it does, Vico said with some reverence. This ancestor was a high-level magician when he was only 10 years old, and his talent can be ranked among the top 5 in the genealogy. 10 years old? Top 5? Aaron was surprised. He was only 11 years old when he opened up and reached this level. Although he hardly used magic points to improve his magic power, the gap of a whole year can also explain the problem. This ancestor was a true genius, a genius among geniuses, and Dumbledore and Voldemort wouldn't even rank in comparison with him. Why? Can't you accept someone stronger? Vico looked at his son's surprised expression and couldn't help but chuckle. His son often teased him about his talent. Although Vico wished for his son to be successful, he couldn't deny feeling a bit irked. There is always someone better, and there is always a higher sky. Your little talent is only on the stage, he remarked. Aaron curled his lips in disdain. I am well aware of my limitations. I never thought I was the best. But if my talent is only on the stage, then, Father, your talent is just... How dare you speak to me like that? Vico's face darkened momentarily, but he quickly regained his composure. But you do have a point. It makes my job much easier. Aaron's heart skipped a beat, sensing a hidden meaning in his father's words. What do you mean by that? This is not the time for you to know, Vico deflected smoothly. What do you think of these weapons? Aaron pondered for a moment. They should be quite valuable, perhaps as valuable as gold. Vico staggered slightly, almost losing his balance. Considering his son had just been dazzled by a large vault, it was understandable for him to think that way. Anything else? Don't you feel the urge to try them out? These weapons are top-notch, extremely sharp. It's no exaggeration to say they can cut through iron like mud. Not at all, Aaron shook his head lightly. Times have changed. Muggle wars are fought with guns now. Although cold weapons won't be completely obsolete, they aren't very practical anymore. Chapter 100. Misunderstandings. Wizards easily walk into. Vico walked up to his son and patted him on the shoulder with an extremely serious expression. Just when Aaron felt that he had said something wrong and made his father unhappy, the corner of Vico's mouth slightly raised. Dad is very pleased that you can realize this, Vico said, but the ancestors of our family, who you can think of, naturally thought of it too. Then, why did you still bring me here? Aaron asked, speechless, as he looked at the warehouse full of cold weapons. Even wizards can't stop bullets these days. No matter how good the sword is, it's useless. It will still be ineffective if you shoot it down. The times have changed, but we are never behind the times, Vico replied, putting on an unfathomable look. He then drew out a short sword. Let's not talk about that. Try the power of this sword first. Aaron took the dagger, but the moment he held the hilt, he clearly felt a small part of his own magical energy being drawn into the dagger uncontrollably. This is... Aaron raised his eyebrows in surprise. A magic weapon? He tried to swing it, and the extremely crisp sword whistle could be heard endlessly. The robe on his body also danced slightly. Aaron's eyes lit up, and he became more interested in these cold weapons. If it was just cutting iron like mud, it wouldn't be worth changing his opinion. But if it was a magic weapon, that was another matter entirely. King Arthur once used the sword in the stone to fight against a city alone, and that is not a legend, Vico explained. The real deeds cannot be told clearly in a few words. In addition to the human race, King Arthur's enemies in that war included countless monsters. Whether it is the wizarding world or the Muggle world, a powerful weapon is enough to change a battle, Vico continued. Although the weapons here are not as good as the sword and the stone, they are much more powerful than ordinary weapons and have a certain degree of restraint against magical creatures. Compared with the weapons made by Muggles, they are much better. That's it, Vico shrugged. If I gave you a gun to deal with a dragon, I'm afraid the dragon's scales wouldn't break even if all the bullets were fired. In addition, there are ghosts, vampires, werewolves, etc., and firearms do little damage to them. But having such a weapon is different. It will definitely get twice the result with half the effort. Aaron nodded and put the dagger back on the weapon rack. Which one is the most powerful weapon in the treasury? Vico and Jins looked at each other and smiled. After all, they are children, so they are a little impatient, Vico said. Cut. If you don't want to say it, don't say it. There are only so many weapons here. At worst, I'll try them one by one, Aaron retorted. Vico was stunned for a moment, then smiled more happily. I advise you to stop thinking about it. I thought so too before, but after working hard for several days, I couldn't find it. No way! Aaron exclaimed in astonishment. Then, as if he had thought of something, he looked at the weapons in astonishment. Isn't the most powerful one here? Smart, you can see through a little bit, Vico said, pursing his lips and giving the housekeeper a wronged look. Uncle Jins, can you tell me? No, Jins shook his head with a wry smile. Even the master can't use that sword casually, let alone me. Cough, cough, don't say what you shouldn't say. Save some face for me, Vico interjected. Sword? Can't you use it casually? Aaron asked with interest. Could it be the legendary sword in the stone? Oh, my dear, that should be considered an artifact. What are you thinking about? Vico rolled his eyes. The sword in the stone is too powerful. It was sealed by Merlin after the death of King Arthur. No one knows where it is hidden. Isn't it? Then I'm so disappointed, Aaron said. What do you know? Although the sword in our family is not as good as the sword in the stone, it is not far behind. It is a masterpiece forged in the depths of a volcano for several years with various. The weapons here are rare treasures, but they are not just for display. The art of swordsmanship is a valuable skill, even for a wizard. It can enhance your agility, reflexes, and overall combat abilities. You never know when you might need it. Aaron sighed, feeling the weight of his father's words. All right, I'll give it a try, but don't expect me to become a master swordsman overnight. Vico smiled, a glint of pride in his eyes. That's the spirit. Remember, every great journey begins with a single step. Jins nodded approvingly. We'll start with the basics and build from there. By the end of this holiday, you'll see the difference. Aaron took a deep breath, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. He glanced at the sword in his hand, its blade still shimmering with a faint blue light. All right, let's do this. The days that followed were filled with intense training sessions. Jins was a patient and meticulous teacher, guiding Aaron through the fundamentals of swordsmanship. They practiced footwork, stances, and basic strikes. Aaron's muscles ached and his hands were blistered, but he pushed through, determined to improve. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Aaron collapsed onto the grass, panting heavily. I never thought wielding a sword could be this exhausting. Jins chuckled, sitting down beside him. It's not just about strength, it's about precision, timing, and control. You're doing well, Aaron. Keep at it. Aaron nodded, wiping the sweat from his brow. Thanks, Jins. I appreciate your patience. Jins smiled warmly. It's my duty, young master. And besides, I see great potential in you. As the days turned into weeks, Aaron's skills gradually improved. He became more confident with the sword, his movements more fluid and controlled. He even began to enjoy the training, finding a sense of satisfaction in mastering each new technique. One afternoon, Vico watched from a distance as Aaron sparred with Jins. He couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. His son was growing stronger, not just physically, but in spirit as well. After the session, Vico approached Aaron, placing a hand on his shoulder. You've come a long way, son. I'm proud of you. Aaron smiled, feeling a warmth in his chest. Thanks, Dad. I couldn't have done it without Jins and your support. Vico nodded, his eyes twinkling. Remember, Aaron, the journey of learning never truly ends. Whether it's swordsmanship or magic, there's always more to discover. Aaron looked at the sword in his hand, then back at his father. I understand, and I'm ready to keep learning. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the training grounds, Aaron felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was not just a wizard or a swordsman. He was both, and he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Magic is more powerful than weapons, and magic weapons are also a kind of magic. Don't you think so? Isn't it? Aaron asked. Of course not, Vico replied seriously. It's understandable that you think that way. I used to think so too. But son, I have to tell you a fact, a common misunderstanding among wizards. The wand is also a kind of magic weapon. The only real power for wizards is their magical ability. Other tools are auxiliary, but they are indispensable, especially the ability for close combat. Aaron was silent for a moment, contemplating Vico's words. After careful thought, it seemed to make sense. The wand merely facilitates the spellcasting process, but wizards can still cast spells without it. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a thing as wandless magic. But then, why practice with swords? Compared to those cold weapons, I'm more accustomed to using wands. It's definitely easier to cast spells at close range than to use swords, Aaron argued. Vico smiled and shook his head. In short, learning the sword is beneficial. You won't regret it, and you'll find it useful sooner or later. Give me a reason, Aaron demanded, still unconvinced. It's a family rule. As long as you are a senior magician, you must learn to use a sword. You have some vacation time, but the sword training is just the beginning. There are other things you need to learn. Any objections? Aaron sighed. You even brought out the house rules. How can I argue with that?